All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Gotta love that. Uh,
And
It
it
was going to be
worked as
really
well when we
cool.
tested it. It
yeah.
worked.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me try something because
We'll
I
try it
do want to
again. Try
share
it
this
again.
now because that was fun and I hate that I screwed that up. All right. How's everybody doing today while I get this figured out?
Good. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Hello.
All right. Let's try this again. And I'm just going to leave us on the side for it so we can awkwardly stare at it. Just kidding.
Worth the wait. Worth the wait.
All right, we did it. Thanks
was
for the
worth the
false
effort.
start. So, hello there, everybody, and welcome back to the SWTVC live streams right here on our YouTube channel, which is the streaming home, I guess, of the SWTVC crew and the ongoing push for the continued existence, expansion, and success of the heritage scale of Star Wars collecting. I'm Evan, as you've come to expect me on most of these. I'll be kind of host and moderator on some of this. We'll find out. Who knows? I'm tired. It's noon. I wanted to sleep in until 2 today. Alas. I am joined today by my SWTVC cohorts, Lewis, also known as Space Hut, and John, also known as The Vintage Concepts. Since Tyler isn't available today, guess what? The next 2 hours means we're going to talk about retro and epic heroes, and you're going to love it. It's going to be great. Just kidding. Although Entertainment Earth is shipping out the deluxe epic heroes, you know what? I don't want to talk about that right now. Thanks for the note, John. Don't care about it. That's enough about that. But we're streaming today, and then also tune in next week to Middle-Aged Kiwi Man collecting Star Wars figures next Saturday, where you'll be able to see us three and Tyler if you couldn't get enough of us all. So yeah, that'll be on his channel. We'll be sure to post about that on our socials. I'll see if I can dig up a link to put up here at some point. Anyway. Hey, guess what? We're hitting the road to March Madness, that is. It's January, so that means it's top 25 time. You know what? John, you take it from here.
Yes. Hello, everybody in the chat, first of all, and nice to see everybody. I'm sure we'll pull up some of your names here in a little bit, but Evan outlined a brief history of March Madness. You know, I'm never brief. I'm verbose all the time. So, you know, everyone has a wish list. Every collector has a wish list. There have been plenty of great fan polls over the years, official, unofficial, everything else. But we wanted a way a few years ago to show excitement and support for the vintage collection, to throw all the wish lists in a big old pot, stir it around, see what came out on top. Not just this side or that side, one side or the other, but hopefully to get everyone together for this. So yeah, if you see anyone that's like, I didn't know about this, I didn't feel about it, send them the link, share the link, please. We want everybody's voice heard. So every year we ask for your top 25 most wanted, all new TVC figures throughout January, assign them points based on your ranking, crunch the numbers for basically the entire month of February, and have them compete against each other in a fast-paced elimination-style bracket in March that apparently has something to do with sports. This part was Evan's idea. I have no clue about that.
Yeah,
but, yes,
that's my mom's thing. She likes sports. I'm like, I like space and lasers and swords. So
the good stuff.
Yeah.
So if we can take a trip down memory lane here real quick. The first year in 2021, as we were doing it between January and March, Mandalorian Season 2 had just ended. That year we got about 125 lists. Bo-Katan Kryze was the #1 ranked choice going into the tournament, and she was the tournament winner as well. There's the bracket from 3 years ago, if you can believe it. And we'll be sharing these brackets again and more detailed rundowns over the next few weeks as time permits. And if I'm not in an exhausted state after looking at all your submissions already, but hopefully we'll get that out. But anyway, so Bo-Katan was the winner, as we said, and she was released late 2021, early 2022. So she was definitely already in development. But this is a way to show Hasbro support for not only the winner, but all the other characters who make the bracket, as well as, you know, the top 100 and so on and so forth. And it's also a fun. yeah, you go ahead on that one.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it's also a fun way to kind of see where both the fan priorities and Hasbro's priorities kind of align or differ, or, see if we can come together. It's fun when they align, isn't it?
Yes. And there was some, the first few years, it was nice to see TVC back up and running again. Kind of had a slow start. We always want more. We always want, everything all at once. But so it's nice to kind of say this is the stuff we're interested in and just let them know as much as we can. So the others in the final four that year were Boba Fett Morak, Dark Trooper, and Ahsoka Tano Corvus, who also ranked in the top 5 of the submissions alongside Grand Admiral Thrawn. Even though Tyler's not here, we have to shout out Thrawn as much as we can. And because this is a question we've gotten already this time, that year there were a number of Hasbro figure announcements between the time of the list submissions and March Madness. So some figures were counted. They were on your guys' lists. They were in the submissions, but they were kicked out, disqualified from the tournament, including IG-11, Lando. We didn't ask to pack them 3 per case. Got to say that. And Maul and Ahsoka from Mandalore, characters like that. So when that happened, other characters would just move up a slot, move up a ranking. So if that happens again, we know there is a Hasbro, some sort of reveal probably later this month, according to an Entertainment Earth post. We don't know if it could be an article with one, pipelined Mandalorian figure we already know about, or it could be a stream with everything you've ever wanted and dreamed about. Probably the former, but we'll see. Yeah, fingers crossed. So, anything you guys want to say about the first year? Do you remember that long ago?
Barely, but I do remember. I think I had Maul and Ahsoka from Mandalore on my list. So, because they were revealed, that was beginning of February. So yeah, that was
late January. Yeah.
Wasted points. Oh no. So I also have. I don't know if you can see it. I've got a Lando on my shelf down here, just to
nice.
Some of them sold. I bought a couple.
Yeah, I know we're going to go through it a bit later, but I mean that first year I had a good year in terms of what I picked to what we then got. And I don't know if it's just because where I was picking, I was a bit more in line with what was going on at the time rather than trying to think a bit outside the box. I don't know, but definitely my most successful year in terms of picking the top 25 anyway.
Same, actually.
And there was a lot of, as I said, Mandalorian season 2 had just ended. That was really the only Disney Plus Star Wars show at the time, I believe. It was Clone Wars had, I think, already aired its 7th season as well. But so there wasn't as many new media source options to pick from. People still were missing the fact that Episode 9 didn't have a figure line in 3 3/4 anyway, for the most part. And there's always long-standing choices we wanted for decades and that sort of thing. But
we had also
there was a lot to focus on for Mando.
We had just backed the Razor Crest as well before this, a couple months before this. So that's why a lot of Mando stuff was hot on people's minds as well.
Yes. And why don't we look at the chat for a second? See, Pico B1, can you highlight that comment?
Yeah.
Evan? I don't know if we need to go. There you go. Yes, Bo-Katan was my number 1, so I was happy to land with Hasbro in a long-time request. She was very high on my list as well. I always talk about, and I'll get into it, some of those Clone Wars characters that didn't get made back in the day from those later seasons that I was waiting on for a decade. And now that there are so many shows, they're getting the spotlight, including, of course, Hu Yang Gang. Got to give a shout out to him. So, all right, ready for 2022?
Yep.
Ready. Let's get excited for something 2 years ago. So, Book of Boba Fett.
Well, before you do that, I've just seen Jeff's question there. What happened to those?
Yeah.
Who holds those at the moment?
Yeah.
We didn't disperse them last year. I still have.
I think last year we all did so badly that no one bothered.
Yeah, we all were kind of busy last year. So I still have the Han of Shame. Carlos still has the Shivo. So hopefully let's figure out how to do this again this year. So
nice.
Because I don't want to have the Han of Shame forever.
We got enough crummy indoor Han figures of all varieties. But all right, 2022, the Book of Boba Fett was airing when this tournament was going on. We got about 430 lists, so I know we tripled what we got the first year. In the submissions, Count Dooku was the number 1 ranked choice in the submissions, with Dark Trooper, A New Hope, Luke and Leia, and Director Krennic rounding out the top 5. Number 22, Chrysanthemum won the bracket, which was kind of a surprise, but he was hot in not hot, but he was the hot topic in Book of Boba Fett. Yes, there it is. I have you guys really small on my screen, so if you do reactions, I can't always see it. But
his episode aired during the tail end of the top 25 submissions, I think.
Right, I remember. I think when Carlo had him on his list, you were able to swap out from the comic version to the live action version.
Didn't Carlo had him on his list from day one anyway? Didn't he? I think he was on his list in 2021 as well. So he was super chuffed that the fact that he just turned up in live action, it actually gave him half a chance of getting that figure.
Yeah.
So it was great to see him go on and win it.
Yeah, for sure. And then he very, very narrowly won it against number 48, Pre Vizsla, which was kind of a surprise to us because we didn't expect him to do so well, to punch above his weight class so much. But as we see with these sort of things, Pre might have been a case of Clone Wars fans having one character to rally around after the other ones were knocked out, instead of splitting the votes across a lot of others. We talked about that with like Legends characters. Like if everybody had one character they could focus on, instead of splitting the votes against all these, random characters, like, or for Clone Wars fans, if they had, I think Ponkrell is another big one for the very vocal, very passionate Clone Wars fan crowd on Instagram anyway. So instead of, voting for every random background clone and Jedi that's in one episode, how can we, focus our efforts on these sorts of things? But
you're not allowed to vote for clones anyway. Tyler will tell you that.
Yeah, not anymore. Yeah, sorry. But in the final four were rounded up by Cad Bane and Darth Revan. And some of these figures might sound awfully familiar since they're all joining the line right about now as amazing figures. And Pre is also just an incredible figure. I know he reuses some parts of figures that we did not have in hand in 2022. That's why he was allowed on the bracket. But he does reuse a lot of parts from the great Mandalorians we got throughout 2022. And he's a great figure. Another Clone Wars figure, another Clone Wars Mandalorian, long time coming. His first version was made, but never this second one until now. So if we can hit some of these comments real quick. Chaz the Guru has to ask the question that's on everyone's mind. Is this 6-inch? No, it is not.
It's always
3.75. As Toys Are the Way says, hit that like button, everyone, please and thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Toys Are the Way. Also, you can ensure that you get this if you enter our little bracket pool and intentionally fill out your bracket as poorly as possible. If you want the Han of Shame, I got that by sincerely filling in a bracket with things I wanted, and whoopsie doops, no one else wanted those things.
So if you can highlight the next comment, Star Wars Ska Cat, is that what it is? Ska Cat? It'll be just our luck that Balin is announced between January and March. Again, I see people worried about this. Is it the worst thing in the world if your most wanted figure gets announced? I don't think so. That's what we're all doing here. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah. Again, that's what happened with Ahsoka and Maul from Clone Wars Season 7 for me with my 2021 list. And I was like, awesome. Now next year, I know I don't have to waste time on that.
That means we should all be so lucky. And then that means we can focus on the next characters in line that we want, because there are so many we got to get to. And yes, we will be getting into, after we go over it, we'll be talking about some of the unmade characters and sort of things. And
yes,
and we'll cover all the unmade characters that have appeared year over year.
That's coming in mere minutes.
Yes. Yes, as HK47 says, the worst would be TVC Balin and Shin being the same height. That could never happen, right?
You mentioned that. I actually screenshotted a comment I saw last night, and it made me laugh. This is one of those things that, like, I put no weight in it. It's made up stuff. It's on the internet. It's not true. But I just saw it. It made me laugh. Someone said, yeah, Hasbro made the color correction on Balin and Shin's lightsaber blades, but they're so botched that 5 different sources have said they're going to correct the problems with these 2 figures in future re-releases. And I was like, okay, you guys really don't like those figures, do you? So
we might get them a little later, but hopefully they'll be perfect.
Yeah, it pays to wait sometimes.
First, we're at 14:45. That's the first Ben Solo reference from Evan, just for the record.
Yeah, I didn't say it.
So last year, 2023, during that tournament, Bad Batch Season 2 was airing, and Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor had their seasons aired since the previous tournament. So there was a lot of new media to go around. We got about 670 lists that year. only 1 year ago. Anyway, Princess Leia from A New Hope was number 1, with Luke Skywalker extremely close at number 2. I think it was maybe like a 40-point difference or something. Count Dooku not too far behind at number 3. Han and Obi-Wan from A New Hope rounded out the top 5, which was a strong showing for the A New Hope mains. And since then, they have announced that Leia is starting their process to make the mains. Hopefully, it's not too long before we see the others. I'm sure these A New Hope guys will still do quite well this year. But Count Dooku won the tournament against his apprentice, Asajj Ventress. So he was number 1 ranked in 2022, number 3 last year, but he won the tournament.
I have to wonder about that, because that was right after, so 2022, the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones had just ended, and Hasbro did nothing for it for Vintage Collection, really. And, you know, like, can we get these guys? So I wonder if that was kind of the disappointment of 2022's, like, oh, that anniversary wasn't celebrated. We keep getting left out of these. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, he was number 1 seed though, wasn't it, the year before? So
yeah, which was the anniversary
year. He was still there on the top of, you know, in people's minds. And I think, you know, even though he didn't quite get the number in the submissions list, it showed that people obviously supported him right through.
Yeah.
And then, so Ventress was also, you know, 20th anniversary of the Clone Wars micro series anyway last year, which again, they didn't do a whole lot for, but we maybe have her legs now on Morgan Elsbeth. We don't know. She still counts. You can still submit her.
Yeah,
of course. But so hopefully she's on their minds now that we know that they at least have her legs. Please, can we get the rest of her now? So the final 4 were rounded out by Luke Skywalker, A New Hope, again from one of the top submitted figures, and Sabine Wren from Rebels, who of course now we have her live action appearance and her Rebels appearance. One of her 4 main Rebels appearances is on the way. Coming hopefully more details soon on that mural card back figure. And then the Elite 8 included Harrison Dula, Darth Revan, got those. Cobb Vanth, still waiting. Tonica Sisters, still waiting. But as you know, they also just won the first Last Figure Standing tournament, which, as you know, was put together by John Miko from the Facebook group, Chris Swansky from Bantha Skull, and Tim from Bosk's Bounty. And just as a point of comparison, they asked for your top 10 without a ranking, and then they crunched the numbers. They still had a ton of number crunching to do, and a lot of spelling errors to correct, and we'll go over that in a bit. But autocorrect plus these crazy Star Wars names results in some fun things sometimes. But then they held a tournament where voting would whittle it down differently from how we do it. So, you know, over a few weeks, you pick your 5 choices out of the 10, then 3 out of those, then 2 out of those, then 1 final figure standing, even though it technically was 2 figures standing. And similar to that, I've seen some questions similar to them and similar to how we did it, at least the last 2 years. I think all 3 years, but the Tonicas have counted as 1 entry for this. Even though, yes, they are different heights and they would have a different head sculpt, but, you know, we don't need, just so we're not having Bria and Cine competing against each other on opposite sides of the bracket or whatever. If you want one, there's a fairly good chance you want both. And we'll go over more of those sorts of cases here in a little bit. I'm not displaying the logos. We're showing what we got.
That's
here.
On me. Sorry. Yeah, the slideshow I have, they kind of auto-sized, so my bad. I'm sorry.
But so in that tournament, Balin Skoll received the most votes in the initial submissions. But as we said, the Tonicas were ultimately the last figures standing from this process because it happened right after the Ahsoka series. So it'll be interesting to see how those characters do as well. Yes, and Des T says, so if you have submitted both Tonica Sisters, for instance, you still have time to edit your list until we're going to close the submissions on January 31st at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. And that's another thing we've amended from last year.
Yes, implementing the editing of lists.
Yes, the editing of lists, but also the time zones. Because last year I'm in Pacific, Evans in Mountain Time, so we would stay up till midnight my time, 1 a.m. his time to turn the polls on and off and get the graphics up and stuff. And we realized we don't need to be doing that every year. We're tired enough as it is. So why don't we shift?
We have jobs.
It's all part of the fun.
Yeah. Sleep deprivation.
Yeah, you think I'm grumpy now? Just wait till March.
Sleep deprivation for 3 months out of every year. That's my favorite part of this. But one thing that will help a lot this year is one thing that they use in Last Figure Standing, which is the Google submission form, which has been an amazing thing, and props to them for showing that it works very well, because in years past, we would ask people to submit their lists everywhere, which is fun. And again, we'll get back to that in a second. But I would scrounge around the internet. I would look for every place that they were submitted. I would compile them, put them in a text edit sheet. It was not very efficient. And then go through the numbers later. I would just kind of collect them all and then figure it out later. But
so you said there were 670 lists last year. So picture this, folks. John, and just scrounging around comment threads on many, many sites, trying to find all 670 of those lists.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you, John? Why did we do this?
I don't know. Again, the first year it was not as bad with only 125 lists, but as it grows and as more people jump on the train here, and then as Jeff mentioned, drop-down menus would eliminate the need to cull spelling errors, vague character descriptions, etc. But we get thousands of different characters, so it's like you're not going to really. We just want you to tell us what you want, and we'll do the rest. So hopefully. Yeah. I think a lot of
you get to the point. I think people will get a bit bored trying to scroll through a list of 1,000 different characters to try and find the one they want, unless there's a way you can start to type it and it will bring it up. But I mean, that's getting pretty sophisticated. I don't know if we can do that or not.
Yeah, for sure.
I get irritated living in Wyoming and my state's at the bottom of the drop down list for states. That's only 50. That makes me angry. So.
And as Scott Cat says, I really hope Batman Skull makes the list. He was a strong contender in Last Figure Standing. So let's see what your autocorrect does for this one as well. So Google Form is great. We will still have to go through and condense and add points and everything, but that was still part of the process. So at least this part of the process has been streamlined a lot. So happy about that. So some more differences. It's Last Figure Standing is a different way of looking at the data. As we've said, it's more focused with 10 figures instead of 64. But for more on that, you can go follow them on Instagram at last.figure.standing. Watch the live streams on Bosk's Bounty's channel after this live stream, please, if you don't mind. And check out the awesome data page that Miko put together. There's more data, as much data as we can get for Hasbro to show what we want and to grow the line. It's a good thing. So check that out. Speaking of data for this, unless I'm talking too much. I'm always talking too much, but that's the idea.
That's
why we love you. God bless you, John.
All right. So a few months back, I put together some posts showing the figures that have and haven't been made from the first 3 brackets. And as we said, again, some of them were probably in development, were definitely in development when they first joined a bracket. But, again, that shows where the collector priorities line up. But it is nice to have our voices heard. We know that Hasbro, the Star Wars Hasbro team, does look at this tournament and other fan polls as well to see what we're asking for. So
what's interesting from that list? One thing interesting from that list. I know we talk about figures that should be all new tooling, but obviously that list there's a lot been made, and there's a lot there that Hasbro have managed to put together off of tooling that they've made for something else, or pre-existing tooling. So I think it's great that they can do that. They don't have to make every single one of those with new tooling, even though that's what we're sort of pushing for.
Yeah. Like I'm looking at the Tusken Chieftain, things like that. Some of the Mandalorians, they were able to knock out a few by sharing parts.
Yeah.
Yep. Velkin and Tame.
Yeah.
Scout Trooper, even if we wish it was a little more new, but that's all right. So across the 3 years, there were 98 unique characters on the bracket, 64 each year, but plenty of overlap across them. 42 of them have been made, which I think you can see 39 in this list, and Count Dooku and Jango Fett are not in this image. They were shown after we made this. And A New Hope Leia is so far only pipelined, but they are part of this group as well. And yes, sorry, Tyler, we will not be getting into the various issues with the Jango Fett figure at this time. We are keeping it light here today, folks. So we're happy to have them. Wish they didn't cost $30 each, but that's life. So
yeah.
So if there are 42 that have been made, that means 56 have not been made, including these 20 that have been on the bracket all 3 years. Let's talk about each little category here. So again, some of the A New Hope guys, Luke and Obi-Wan. Some, recurring Mandalorian characters like Cobb Vanth.
We should change the hashtag on the bottom to say, "Take a hint, Hasbro."
Tonica sisters have always done well in this. We're waiting for Baze Malbus, Saw Gerrera, some of these Rogue One characters. A lot of them, and Bodhi Rook, of course, a lot of them are kind of completing crews, teams and themes, as we say. There's a lot of Rise of Skywalker stuff on there because these characters didn't get any 3.75-inch Rise of Skywalker figures. A lot of Clone Wars stuff. Of course, some of our favorites, Carlo's favorite, the second sister, Lewis. You got to hashtag do it for Dryden.
Yep, he's there.
Evan,
hopefully
I'll
he's
say
going to
Ben
do it
Solo.
again.
Yeah.
Bring me Ben Solo.
Get him on there. Yes, and I got my sweet Simalu on there. So a lot of great characters. Again, I don't know how many of them are in Black Series. Don't even want to.
I did a count at one point, and that's a data point I didn't want to repack and reuse. So
if we can,
too depressing.
I do want to bring up. Can you go back to that one real quick? Because I want to bring up what Aqualish Doug says.
Yes, I saw that as well. This is not always a given.
Yeah, new media characters are being made anyway. The bracket will help promote older sources or at least characters predating Disney Plus. Tell that to my Bad Batch collection, which only has Hunter right now. Tell it to characters like, I just don't take anything as a given.
Tell it to the Inquisitors.
Yeah.
Tell it to Cal Kestis.
Tell it to Cobb Vanth. So I don't, push for what you want. If you want new stuff, great. If you want old stuff, awesome. If you want stuff in between, that's what I kind of stick to. You'll see some of those characters in a bit, but I just don't take anything as a given because, I sort of took Cobb Vanth as a given. Yeah. A lot of people take, A New Hope, Luke, and Obi-Wan as a given. Take finishing once they made Chariot. A lot of people took Baze as a given. So
mm-hmm. Cobb debuted over 3 years ago, and we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of Rogue One. And I mean, look at these 20 in this grid, where that's a pretty good mix of different media properties spanning OT and new media. So it's nice to see the diversity of what people are wanting across all of it. And also it kind of shows that not anything's a given, not everything's a given. Hasbro's not always going to make everything obvious.
Yeah, we've even seen, some people think Finish the 96 is a given. Some people think, Mandalorian stuff is a given, which, yeah, I don't know. There is a given in the Cantina, but by the name of Ellis Hellroad. But they made him years ago, so don't worry about him. That's a little given species joke.
That's only a joke that John gets.
Audience of one, and I'm laughing.
Yeah. God, welcome to the Deep Cut Show.
But another Cantina thing to shout out real quick. Momon Nadon also was number 2. He was the second to last figure standing, and is being made in Black Series this year, which is a little bit unfortunate. Got to get him in TVC as well. So, yes. Okay, so next group are the characters that have only been on 2 years, and some of it was because, they were new characters after the first year, or maybe some of them dropped off out of it. Like I think Grief Karga Season 1 was on the first 2 years, but not last year, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Or moved up if something else had been made and they were close to the bracket.
Yep. So some things like, Han and New Hope was not on the bracket in the first year, which is interesting. There's a lot of support for him now, but maybe it took some, I don't know, maybe the other ones are higher priority for people. I don't know. Stuff like, some more of the Return of the Jedi stuff. The Bad Batch, they were not on in the first year. They were lower. Their Clone Wars episodes had aired, but their show had not happened yet when the first bracket existed. But I don't know. 2-timers. I don't have a lot to say about these guys. We got the 1-timers here that, again, some new, some that were maybe hotter a couple years ago and dropped out of people's radar or whatever. But it's interesting to see. So like a lot of the Andor characters last year, like Luthen and Dedra and Mon Mothma from that show. And so
it'd be interesting to see which ones carry through and which ones, were a bit more of a recency bias to them, because you're certainly seeing figures there, from Obi-Wan, for example, that people may have now kind of gone off the boil a bit and, leaning away from. Hopefully not. But you're going to find people having to make some tough decisions. I know I did.
Yeah. That's interesting. It's kind of where the 12 to 18 month window for making stuff makes us a little interesting, where it's like we're just now getting, Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan stuff a little bit more. Yeah. And it's like that's not top of mind anymore. Granted, we still want it. I still want a lot of that stuff, but it's easy to see how some of that can slide when there's new stuff coming out constantly. So
Yeah, and like again, we said before, they did great with the Ahsoka figures. Obviously, we want more like Balin and Shin, but they did a lot better there than on some of the other shows. For more on that, listen to our podcast we just put out.
Yeah,
but when people
finish the
talk about recency,
56.
but when people talk about recency bias, I do think that it's important to strike while the iron is hot. Like as cool as it is to get Book of Boba Fett figures 2 years after the show was on, it probably might have been cooler to get them when the show was on.
Yeah,
The fact that there brought it up before, the fact that there's only a big plush of Boba Fett available, that was like the only Book of Boba Fett product on shelves when that show was out. That was a little bit of a head scratcher.
I was just talking about that with someone in a chat where, it's like people say, "Oh, Star Wars is brand decline, toy sales are going down." It's like, sure, but maybe the fact that if someone really likes a movie or a show that comes out, they can't buy almost a single thing from it until way after the fact, once they've forgotten about it.
Yeah, once
and
3 more shows have come and gone.
That's that really sustainable? And like, I think there's something to be said for more robust figure lines and figure offerings for a thing leading up to and during the release window of something. But I know Lucasfilm doesn't play ball like that anymore. So,
well, it's dependent on each, as we said, it's also dependent on each filmmaker. But so if we can go up to this Des T comment,
yes,
says from a few minutes ago, the fact that there's so many great random obscure figures means this is definitely the world building scale. Absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, for me, I would love to be able to list 25 background figures, if you like, and feel that they was enough to be able to fill my collection or complete my collection, if you like. But the fact that we're missing so many mains, I mean, when I went back through my list this year, I just kind of thought, really, there isn't a single background character in there. And I'll come to that when I go through it. But I think it's unfortunately where we are.
Yeah, it does get tiring to have to ask for main characters that should absolutely be no-brainer, but it's okay.
But we want everything.
Here we are.
We want it all. We got to balance it. I understand.
So the real question, if you can go up to Toys Are the Way a minute ago.
Yeah.
Got to give the people what they want. So,
yes, they
do. Excuse me. It's been a minute. Something like that. Not the best I've ever done, but
I'm sure you offended some Geonosians out there.
Yeah, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I just said to them. But I told them to attack the Republic or something. I don't know, but yes. And hi to more of the people that are in the chat. I see Milky Way Skywalker just joined. Welcome.
Yes.
Matthew Brazier, half of the Twin Sons collecting are here, which is awesome to see.
Also, Milky Way Skywalker, I saw a question you had the other day, and we will answer that here in a little bit when we come up on it.
So now if we can get into the top 25 submissions phase. Wait. Matthew says, yes, that is Geonosian for Bring Me Ben Solo and Sweet Sweet Simalu.
I really got to learn Geonosian then.
So just want to give a shout out and give a huge thanks to all the sites that have posted about them so far. I will not name. I probably have missed so many of them. There's so much to keep track of, and I didn't really look this morning. But so far, we've got articles on Bantha Skull, Yak Face, Jedi Temple Archives, Yoda's News, Jedi News, Rebel Scum, plus an active conversation going on in their forums. Posts from YouTube channels like Victoria's Cantina, Bosk's Bounty, and Toys Are the Way in the chat today. Hopefully, we'll see some videos from you guys soon. Not to give you any more work, but I know Toys Are the Way you are working on one, not to spoil anything. But posts in the, of course, Miko's SW, the Vintage Collection Facebook group, the Vintage Collection Rebels Facebook group, the French TVC Facebook group, the UK TVC Facebook group. Join them all, talk about everything in all of them. Lots more. Yeah.
Sorry, shout out to whoever Reddit user Theme Disastrous is. I've noticed they are posting this stuff as well in the Star Wars TVC and Star Wars Collecting subreddits. So
nice. I forgot about Reddit. So maybe there's a Discord we need to be talking about too. I know sometimes you do that. What other corners of the internet can we infiltrate here? But lots and lots more posts from our friends on Instagram. So thanks to all of you. They are awesome to see. It's really fun to see everybody's different lists.
As of right now, there are 541 lists.
Nice. So keep them coming. If you're watching right now and you haven't submitted, please do so. I think the link is in the caption. Yes, is that true?
Nope, but I will put it there for
Wow.
sure.
Let's put it in the chat right now. Here we go.
Yep, I was busy doing stuff. Yep, ignore me.
I'm sure everyone in the chat's already submitted, or at least due to submit. But yeah, get it submitted. You can always change it.
Yeah, let me allow. I'm allowing all these things. StreamYard can access my Google account, so I can post the link right here.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
There we go. Comment has failed to post. Well, that's great, but anyway, we're on top of things here, folks.
Yeah, obviously we got off with a bang of me pushing the wrong buttons. We're good. What is John, off the top of your head? What is the bit? Never mind. What is the bit.ly link?
Oh wow, bit.ly/TVCMM top 25.
Got it.
He's just got a brain that holds everything.
Yep.
I don't know how you do it.
It's full to bursting. I don't know how. I don't either. But okay, so thanks to everybody who has posted, and I guess we could talk about Milky Way Skywalker's question, because yes, we do want the list. The list is, I don't think he posted it in this, but he posted it elsewhere. But
yeah, he had mentioned being a little bit disappointed of not, having lists required to be posted publicly so that we could talk about them. That wasn't really the spirit of putting the link out there. Well, that was just for us, but we absolutely encourage anyone and everyone to also, as well as submitting their list, also make fun graphics or post their list in comments, because the conversation is a key element of this whole March Madness endeavor, to really get people, get the community really thinking about stuff, maybe talking about the merits of something or what tooling does and doesn't exist, maybe talk about things that may have been overlooked or things that are more obscure, and just kind of have fun with it too. It's always fun to talk smack as well. But yeah, I don't know.
And also it helps to champion perhaps, some of your favorite characters, if you can get them out there. I see a lot of people reading lists and then sort of going, oh, I didn't think of that character, I'm going to change mine. And I think sometimes it just helps people, oh yeah, actually that is a figure I want. So yeah, definitely promote it. I mean, we've got the template there for people to use, so make your graphics as well.
Yeah, our friend Finn, Findor Moon, he had reached out to me with his list, and he was like, oh, I was finalizing my list, and then I saw you'd put little Leia on something, and I was like, oh yeah. So he redid his list, I think, to include her. So it with so many characters, it's easy to go, because while I was making my list, I remember thinking of, oh, this character, and then I'd finalize my list and be like, oh wait, no, I totally forgot about this other obvious character. So
yep, we could make a top 2,500 easily.
Oh yeah.
But so as for the rules, should we get into them? Do you want to take this, Evan? My mouth is dry.
Yes. Let's.
Lewis, you're welcome to, but
Well, no, Evan can do it.
First off,
read.
Well, I'm going to be looking at the wrong screen right now, because I'm looking at 3 screens, and I only have 2 eyes and half a brain. So, of course, 1, submit your list at the link that we've provided. You can also find it in our bio on Instagram. I will put it in the description of this live stream for later viewers. It's in the comments up there. It's in the graphic. People have been posting it. It's not hard to find. You'll find it. Feel free to share your list in the comments on social media. But yes, submit to have it counted. Rank your choices. Rule number 2, rank your choices in order. So with your most wanted at number 1, we do assign them points. So your number 1 want gets 25 points. Your number 25 want gets 1 point. So it does matter, and it does make it a little hard. So keep that in mind. Rule number 3, be specific. If the character has multiple looks, please specify the scene or the outfit or the media property they're from. That really helps us out trying to, if you're just like, I just want Luke Skywalker.
I didn't do. I got told off.
Yeah. Hey, but Lewis, I think between the 3 of us, we're kind of smart dudes sometimes, so we can figure it out. But yeah, if you just say Luke Skywalker, we're not. It's probably just going to default to Farm Boy Luke. Maybe if I'm talking out of turn.
Dude is a fashion icon. He's got a lot of looks. We need to know which one you're talking about here.
Yeah. So help us out there. There's a lot. And same kind of things with Cobb Vanth, where it's like, do you want Cobb Vanth? Great. He's got 2 main looks, the Boba Fett armor and the non-armored. So help us out a little bit.
We're gonna go over more of those in a second, but yeah,
we will. And then also importantly, one character per slot. Do not list multiple characters on a single line. Do not say something like the Bad Batch. We get it. We do want those. We do need them all. We only have Hunter, but we're doing characters, man, not the team, although we do talk a lot about teams and themes on our stuff.
And as we said, there will be a few exceptions. I deleted them from this part, but there will be a few exceptions. Again, we'll talk about those in a minute. But
yes,
by and large, yeah.
Yes. Where am I? Oh, and then the final rule is focus on new tooling. You know, this is more about new figures, not repacks or repaints or partially tooled figures, but we did touch on that a little bit earlier, where if something can use reused parts, or if we didn't know about certain parts, that's also fine. It's just encouraging expanding the tooling library, asking for stuff that maybe is not as easy for Hasbro to make right at this second, you know, without making new tooling, if that makes sense.
Yeah. We don't want to see a repainted clone or a repainted Stormtrooper go on and win the tournament. It would kind of feel a little bit pointless. So that's
because those those exist.
It's not hard and fast.
Yeah.
But again, if you want Asajj Ventress, but you're like, well, she might use Morgan Elsbeth's legs, still put her on the list. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you've been getting comments from somebody yelling at you, we're not going to name names, but it's not any of us on the stream. So the spirit of it is, yes, asking for new figures. But if you really, your number one most wanted figure is going to reuse arms and legs from somebody else, put it on the list. That's fine.
Yeah. And the flip side is, a figure like Tessic, a lot of people wanted a new Tessic. The fact that it did end up reusing some tooling was a good thing. So
from another new figure,
no one knew that. Yeah, no one knew what it was going to be. So we can't be too specific.
Yeah. And you know, with the new tooling, I think I mentioned it later, but I may as well just jump on it now. With new tooling, where, you know, when we ask for the new tooling, is to expand the tooling library to, you know, what is possible to do, like Tessic Lewis, where he used Cal Kestis parts, which was a figure that was also new this past year, where it was, you know, they can make the possibilities start becoming more and more, you know, broad, endless, as you add more parts for them to pull from to make things that may otherwise have been more difficult to do accurately or, you know, up to modern standards. So.
And Tessic also used the new arms from Bib Fortuna from a year or two earlier, who was a character that had used the legs from Orlando previously. So it's like everything, you know, as we get more and more super articulated modern sculpting parts, modern articulation, that helps build the line overall. So that's what we're trying to do here. But
yeah, cool.
So there you go.
All right. It only took us 43 minutes to get through the rules.
And we're not even close to done. We got a lot of nitty gritty stuff to get through. But Evan, your comment about the stream, if you want to read that.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I think there's been, Entertainment Earth or something posted that there's going to be some figure pre-orders at the end of the month, towards the end of the month. And I think it was hinted at that there's going to be some kind of stream.
Not even remotely, not even
remotely. Okay, yeah.
There's a vague Entertainment Earth post about figures from far, far away. So it could be, you know.
I also remember in the Q&A recently, where when Epic Heroes was brought up, we are talking about Epic Heroes on this stream after all. That they were going to be talking about them in January. I think Jing said more on that in January. So.
But they also thought that no collector could possibly ever be interested in the Epic Heroes line. So I sort of don't think they're going to do a stream where they announce that. My guess is that'll be more like a press release, which they have done in the past for some of the kids stuff. Like there's a new plush chopper or whatever. Go get it. So they do that stuff. So again, there's literally been no mention of a stream. They might do it. No. They might reveal every single thing you've ever wanted and asked for and didn't even know you wanted yet. But I'm leaning towards maybe not. So.
But that ties into two things we've already mentioned. That, if they make something that you already want, I'll take that as a win. But you can also edit your list. So it's, if something is revealed, you can amend your list.
And if it happens after January, obviously we have the scenario where if something's revealed, it doesn't go into the bracket. And as we said before, we just push the next figure up. Yep. So again, you're not losing out.
No. Yeah. And we'll still look at where that would have placed. Mm-hmm. To kind of see, you know, like it won't be on the bracket, but just later when we're doing the data and whatnot, it's like, this figure would have been at number 36.
Yep. I guess we talked about the next thing on here, but want to skip ahead to the multiple character entries.
Cool.
So there are a few examples where there are some exceptions. So again, as we said, the Tonikas are one entry. Yes, one's taller than the other, but it's going to be one entry. Okay.
Yeah.
Next one is two tubes. Last year we combined them on the list. I'm sure they can reuse legs and maybe various parts, but frankly, it is a little confusing because sometimes Edrio's here, sometimes Benthic's here. Sometimes they rename them in a source book years after the fact. If you want one, it's probably a good bet you want both again. And then, yeah, one of them wears the necklace in Solo and Andor that he doesn't wear in Rogue One. So we're just going to combine them as we did last year and say two tubes. So there you go. The Great Mothers, some people have asked about this. I don't think they're ranking super high yet.
No.
But it feels like they're all wearing the same thing. But if you get down into the details, you'll notice that they are wearing a lot of unique clothing parts anyway. So I think that there would be a lot of new tooling. There would also be a lot of reused tooling. But I think we're leaning towards one. I think we're leaning towards combining them. So
yeah.
if you have all three on your list and you don't change it after you see this, if you don't see this, we will average them out. So it doesn't the points don't stack on top of each other. We will take the average of the three and put them on the list. But
or you can just go and change your list.
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be easiest for me.
Yeah. You have until January 31st.
Yes.
So.
The Gela twins, Sebulba's masseuses from Phantom Menace 25th anniversary.
This I love because I really struggled to find a usable photo of these two where it's like, okay, if it's hard to even just find a photo of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can I ask, has anyone put them on the list yet?
Yes.
Yeah, they do fairly well. Yeah, they do okay.
Yeah.
Let me do a little search. Gela shows up 8 times. Wow, 8 whole times.
Wow.
So you know what? We want to make sure everybody's voices are heard.
Yep.
And I will bring them up later. Okay, so the Knights of Rin, these are separate.
Yeah.
Also, the Gela twins are the same. They're identical twins. Obviously, it's the same figure. Buy it twice. Knights of Rin are separate. They don't really share tooling. Again, if you get down into it, we want to know which ones you want because if Hasbro could reuse tooling, we would probably have more than one by now. But sadly, we do not.
We just have that one that's in the way back.
Is that JC? I forget his name.
Yeah.
Is that Joey or I don't know. Lance maybe?
Tell me why.
Sure that's not even the same boy band.
I don't care.
But anyway, list those guys separately. Speaking of a band, though, wow, what a segue. The Max Rebo band. We got to separate them. They're their own people. They would share 0% of the tooling across each other. If you put the Max Rebo band, does that mean you want Joe Yowza and Dota Bodanawito too, or do you just want these guys?
What are you saying, dude? Are you saying names?
I just love the name Dota Bodanawito. That's the Rhodian who plays next to Barkwin Dan. And yes, so
that's real. I love March Madness.
So yes, somebody had on their list Peg Leg Pete, who I assume is named after the Disney character of the same name. But Pete, Piit, she's a Weequay pirate from Clone Wars, which I had no idea that was her name or nickname. So I continue to learn new things every single year we do this, which is part of the fun for me. So there you go. So next thing, small characters this time, including my boys Kitster and Wald. Small characters, small picture. So, as you can see, they just found out we have to separate them this year. Sorry, guys.
It's only fair. It's only fair. We can't make up.
Yeah, it's only fair. I was thinking I was thinking I could be sneaky the last few years by putting them on one entry, but we got to take them separate.
Well, I mean, years ago, they probably would have come in a 2-pack.
Yeah.
Now that if we ever did get them, they would be on separate cards, presumably. So
that would be probably if they came together, it would be MSRP of like $49.99 or something. So.
Yeah.
No. Well,
I have more to say on Kitster and Wald. You better believe it later. But I'm looking at the Wicked and Nisa 2-pack that we got, and obviously it's a 2-pack, but they're on their own cards. So yeah, looking at how they would do it now, and I know that a decade plus ago, like during the 3D line. And years before, Kitster and Wald and the Gela twins, there's some of these characters that have almost been in episode 1 waves or lines over the years, but just never quite got on. I know Daryl DePriest, former brand manager of the Star Wars team, had wanted them as a 2-pack. Sort of, thought they should be a 2-pack, as I do as well. But I think they could never cost it out enough to make sense, unfortunately. So now the only option is a $40 2-pack. So anyway, we got to separate them this time. Sorry to me and probably Quentin Lambert, and I don't know, probably nobody else that puts them on their list. But
there's almost a dozen of you. But yeah, now let's go over to look at things that could be easily achieved with, tooling. We touched on that before, Imperial officers. So those exist. It's kind of a fool's errand to ask for.
Yeah, I've seen a fair few people ask for Tarkin, and I can see why people want to see him redone and why people do want to push for another Tarkin. But yeah, it feels a bit wasted.
We've gotten 8 already this year, so it's like,
It is good to talk about, though, and it is good to ask for those things, maybe outside of the confines of your top 25 and like March Madness itself, but to bang the drum for these things that you do want, that Hasbro could easily do and have proven that they are game to do in some capacity.
And I did some posts about the Imperial officers that appeared in Rebels to kind of encourage, discussion about that and see what people want from that. And we'll, at some point, we'll be doing more of those from each of the various media sources, because I know that's Tyler's favorite thing ever. So want to encourage some of these, relatively easy things to get out in the line.
Yeah. Clones, we have these guys. Mandalorians. Yeah. All that fun stuff. But
one Mandalorian thing that you mentioned here,
yeah. Well, yeah, one Mando is Obi-Wan in Mando armor. So, I didn't put him on my list since pretty much 100% of the tooling exists already. I mean, if they wanted to tool up a new head, great. But otherwise, plop him on this figure, essentially. Plop the head on this figure, and it's done. That I don't need to ask for them to invest in a whole lot of new tooling for this guy.
And it's similar paint on the armor, too. I think the helmet is a different paint scheme.
Yeah. So
but otherwise,
and then throw in a lightsaber with him, and there you go. So speaking of Obi-Wan, Jedi stuff, everybody's favorite thing. Sorry in advance. Sorry. So where are we at with Ahsoka the White? I don't have an image of her right now, John.
That's fine. Well, we all know what she looks like. So,
well, yeah, but in terms of tooling, what do we have to get?
Like,
how close are we to get her?
I think, what are we looking at? We're looking at a picture of Obi-Wan.
They could reuse.
I know. They could reuse most of the figure that we already have, the Mandalorian one that they keep repacking and repainting. But she would need a new head with a different headband and longer leku, new forearms and new shins, as far as I know, maybe hands and stuff. But by and large, that's a very easy retool, which I want in a 2-pack with Morgan Elsbeth with her Gift of Shadows paint and the sword and stuff. So that's just my little. I'll be having lots of requests on the stream in addition to my actual top 25 requests. But so that's where we are with her.
Okay. And I bring up Obi-Wan because Obi-Wan Jedi Legend, the hello there scene at the end of Obi-Wan Kenobi, the inspired by the Mythos look. That is my personal #1 most wanted figure ever, up and down across the board. I did not, spoiler alert, put him at all on my top 25 because we are pretty close to getting that figure. It would just need new legs, new hands, and if they wanted to get real spicy with it, a new head on this figure. So a lot of the tooling does exist for that. That's a very mostly done partial tool. So I didn't put him on my list, but I want him big time. Just that's my justification for it. What about Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan? Oh, well, there's hello there. I put the picture there. Great. Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan. Could he use the showdown torso and arms? Yes, but also no. The neckline of the undershirt is pretty different. The tunic has an overall better fit compared to what we've kind of seen in the Disney era stuff, where all of the Jedi tunics look very baggy, whereas in the prequels, they usually appeared pretty well done. And especially on the shoulders, where I think that's been a main difference for me is In the prequels, Jedi tunics, the tabards usually stuck to the shoulders and they slide down a lot in the Disney era stuff.
Well, it was a more civilized time, let's be honest.
It was, and we're in
Yes,
the dark times and a lot of this stuff. But yeah, also since it is such an action heavy character like Obi-Wan is, obviously the 15-minute amazing battle of the heroes. I'd personally like them to revisit the arms, redo the arms, and of course the torso, so that it's got better range of articulation. Those arms on the Showdown one don't really go very far. The articulation really lets that figure down. So I'd like them to kind of approach the engineering. Plus, also, this tunic has a completely different texture from the one that he wears in the Showdown and the Mythos stuff. So yes, for more, and obviously here's a tiny little photo of. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there we go. There's a tiny little photo of some more Jedi. They all have very unique costumes, all the Jedi stuff. Whatever. I'm not going to get into it right now because I already did that on episode 60 of the SWTVC podcast of Robes and Brackets. So for more on that, find that episode wherever you get your podcasts, or right here on this YouTube channel. So anyway. All that said, guys, have fun with your top 25. Like we're not trying to discourage you in general. Just
don't let the rules. Yeah, don't let the rules get you down.
Yeah.
Keep them in mind, but don't go crazy trying to if you want. Yeah. Okay, so do we have any? We've already answered a lot of the questions on the stream, but we asked on Instagram for a few questions, I guess, as well.
Yes.
Ben Swallow Collector 95, I responded to you, but you are also in this chat, so hello. You asked, do misspellings affect the count of votes? I realized that I misspelled Ezra Peridia. You put an I instead of an E. No, that does not affect anything. We will still be going through and checking for all that stuff. And we will ding you in our hearts for having misspellings, but we won't do anything. Again, the combo of autocorrect plus, wacky Star Wars names is always a fun thing to see how that shakes out.
Yeah. And the context clues help. That's why we ask for specificity. So even if you spell something wrong, but you did put stuff in the ballpark of the correct spelling, it's easy to figure out.
But if you've realized, you can go back and edit. That's the other thing.
Yes.
You can go back in there.
Yes. I had a buddy submit his list, and I was looking at it because I knew he'd submitted. And he had typed Cal Kestis. This is not a misspelling. This was just an error. He put Cal Kestis Jedi Survivor. And I was like, hey, dude, where were you last year? And he meant Jedi Fallen Order. So,
one more. McCoy from Space asked, why are we here? And that is a question that is beyond the scope of what I'm prepared to answer today. So ask your local clergyman or some such.
Well, I would say we're here because Hasbro aren't making enough figures for TVC.
That's true.
We're here because we want more. That's what Augustine says from the Facebook group.
Yes. Yep. Steve Zinger, plus a bunch of numbers, says anything regarding vehicles? No, not at the moment. Lando Griffin, again from the Facebook group, ran a poll a few months ago. If more people want to run polling on that, that's great. One day, maybe, who knows, but not currently. So
also just in the thing of vehicles, I saw some folks have submitted the Rancor on their list. I mean, please don't. But is it a figure?
Maybe we'd count Moochie from the Bad Batch as a figure size thing, but maybe not. I don't know.
Creatures. We'll do it.
All right, should we get into our own
creatures?
Yeah.
We're hitting the 1 hour mark. So let's jump into the part where we talk about our personal top 25 lists, what we're submitting. These are not some folks I remember last year when we would post these, our personal list, people would be like, that's crap. Who would want that? Like, how did you submit that? The community doesn't want that rigged. And it's like, no. Wait, these are just our individual personal lists. You have one as well. We're good.
Yeah.
This isn't.
We all get to go as wild and wacky and unrealistic as we want here.
Yeah. So, yep. So, Lewis, we're going to start with you, and I hope you didn't change it after I made these images, but we'll find out.
No, but I'll be honest, I've just sat here when you were talking earlier about Cobb Vanth, and I had this like massive revelation. I haven't put Cobb Vanth on my list, and I was like, oh no.
Edit your list after we're done with this.
I haven't either.
No, I'm sticking with it. It's like, who do I take out? So, yeah.
Well, we did, we have honorable mentions, so I'll first include him in your honorable mentions here. But Lewis, how many from your previous years have been made?
So in total, I have had 17 made. The large majority of those came in 2021, though. So yeah, I think I don't know. I was surprised when I added those up. I was quite shocked that 17 out of all of my picks. But I think in that first year, again, we spoke about it earlier. You know, Mando season 2 had just finished. Is that right? And you know, we were a lot of things that people wanted. We were pushing for a lot of Mando figures. The Razor Crest was out or coming out, and we were wanting figures to go with that. So I know a lot of my list. I had things like, you know, Bo-Katan was on my list. I had IG-11. I had Quill. So there was obviously a lot of those that were coming out of Mandalorian and that Razor Crest. I had Mix Mayfield, actually, a tank driver. So again, that's a lot of those I'm pleased to say we got. I also had some more of the classics. So I had obviously A New Hope Leia was on my list. Lando, Empire Strikes Back, Bib Fortuna. So again, those figures were popular. So yeah, having those, but I mean, even Leia's only just now being pipelined. So even then, a 2021 list, I'm saying I've got 17. I haven't actually got that in hand yet. So no, it's, you know, it's nice though to know that even after those years, we're getting figures that we've asked for, that we wanted for some time. So a few others that were on my list was the Dark Trooper and the Purge Trooper was another one, and Thrawn and Krennic, which again, I think I dropped from some of my later lists just because I kind of started to lean a different way. So I think on my first year, I was definitely probably in tune with everybody else. As the lists got harder, and I think that's where when we'll look at my new list, I started to sort of make rules for myself, because I can't pick 25. It's so hard to do. So I think you have to try and sort of refine that and try and find a way of, okay, how can I focus those 25? So I know I've said this a lot. For me, it's always been about new figures. So, you know, characters that have never been made, or specific outfits of that character that have never been made. So from 2022, the second year we did this, I started to lean more that way, albeit there were still some figures on my list that were, I think Krennic was an example where he was still on there, even though I had the 5 POA, because he was a figure that I really wanted to see. But certainly, so in the second year, I only got 4 figures off my list that were actually have been made. And that was Velkin, Kanan, season 3 and 4, which again, we still haven't got in hand. Hunter from the Bad Batch, and Admiral Piet. So again, a bit of a mix there, but figures that probably, again, a lot of people were pushing for as well. Dropping back to Hunter there, I think that year I had Hunter on the list, but I also had Crosshair, the Imperial outfit version Crosshair. I didn't have the rest of the Bad Batch. For me, I kind of felt, you know, again, you pick 25, you're trying to spread your choices a little bit. And for me, I thought, well, if I get Hunter on there, he kind of represents the Bad Batch. You know, he'll be the first one that people will probably make. I put Crosshair on there as well, because it's the idea of having these, you know, adversary or their adversary on there. But largely, I feel that was probably a mistake looking back, because I think that may well have backfired a little bit, you know. And if a lot of people felt the same way, perhaps that's why Hasbro, you know, we've got Hunter, but we haven't got some of the others. So I don't know. It's good. It's good to get him, but you'll see again with my list this year that, yeah, that I've tried to rectify that, shall we say. And then just last year, I mean, the only 2 that come out on my list last year, which again were in that previous year, was Velkin and Kanan. So there was nothing else on my list last year that actually has hit that point of being made or pipelined. So I started off really well. I sort of did okay, and then I kind of I've really bombed, you know, last year. So
well, there was 3 years for them to catch up on you. So
yeah, and you know, again, I think some of those ones are obvious, as I say, or perhaps you feel might be more obvious. But you know, because I think that I didn't do as well last year, when I obviously went back to the list this year, there was only those few to come off. So it's kind of made it harder, because we've got more figures now we want, and yet my list hasn't, you know, gone down too much. So this year I've had to sort of make some quite, big changes, I guess. So do you want me to go through my current list, or
Yes, please, one by
Yes,
one.
indeed. One by one,
Okay.
or else I wasted
Buckle up,
all that
everybody.
time.
I can't see that. It's really weird. I don't know what's going on my screen at the moment, but the stuff you're sharing is
weird.
not coming up properly. So I have got the list in front of me here anyway.
Okay.
So hopefully yours matches up what I've got.
Yeah, start at 25.
So I started 25. So 25, I've got the Corvus Scout Guard. They've been on my list for 2 years now. Obviously, when we saw them in The Mandalorian, the Jedi, the episode The Jedi, I just thought they're really cool. Would love to see those figures. Would love to army build those figures. And for me, those bottom ones on my list, I try and get a couple of army builders in there because I think it is all main characters otherwise. And for me, it's nice to try and slip in some army builders. So that's why they're at 25. We've obviously seen them again recently in Ahsoka. They are a different version. They're a slightly different version. The ones that we saw in Ahsoka have got a red, sort of red painted head, and I think sort of some red stripes. I don't know if that's again like a kind of commander or a different rank. So again, there's an opportunity there for Hasbro to get us one, give us an army builder pack, give us some different versions. So I think that could be nice to, now we've seen them a few times. Could be quite nice to get that one out there. Again, 24. The Pike Soldier, it's again, I love those. I think they're great. I think they're cool aliens. That we've seen them in animated. We've now seen them in live action. We don't have enough. Book of Boba Fett, I think, we all know that it's controversial, whatever you want to say, but we don't have enough figures from it still. And for me, I think the Pike Soldier would be a good one to get out because it's having that adversary, someone that you can put your figures up against in scenes. And they've got the different color faces, so it's a simple repaint for Hasbro to make, again, an army builder pack. Give us the gold, the silver, the bronze, whatever sort of colors they've got on their faces, and get those out there. So
if I can chime in on this,
yeah,
as an adversary, because they appear in both the modern times of Book of Boba Fett against Boba and Mando and Cobb Vanth and everybody, but they also appear in the flashbacks against the Tuskens. So they work as the adversaries for every figure we already have, pretty much. Chrysanthemum fights them, everybody fights them. So yeah, they're a good choice.
Yeah. And it's a small tie into Solo as well. I know they're not quite the same, but we see the Pikes in Solo, and everyone knows I'm a bit of a fan of Solo. So I won't go through all of these, but obviously in terms of 23, Carson Teva is a new entry for me. Carson is, he ties the whole Mandoverse together. He's such an important character now. And again, he just seems to have been overlooked by Hasbro. I know a lot of people may say, we've got half of these parts, but, we can't just stick him on a Luke X-Wing body. He won't look right. That's not his physique. So I think he needs new tooling. This was the one that I think Evan pulled me up on and said, well, you haven't actually specified which version you want.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. I'll take the flight jacket version. I'll take the orange jumpsuit version. I think they're both. I'll be happy with either at this stage. We'll get one, then I'll champion for another one. But
I asked John if maybe Lewis meant the Tribunal version or the New Republic version, and John was like, "Nobody wants that."
Sorry, he's a distant third. But if they do the X-Wing pilot, then they can add a jacket and they can add different arms and make two versions out of him that way, which would be awesome.
Exactly. So. And also, I think as people point out, Dave Filoni figure could come out of that possibly. I know people talk about a new Porkins. I don't know if it's quite got the same figure as Porkins, but if Hasbro are clever with what they do, they might be able to get some more out of that. Even if it's some, again, a generic X-Wing pilot, you might be able to throw in an army builder pack of those, and you've got some are slimmer and some aren't. Mix them up a bit.
In the last generation of articulation, they had Luke's body plus a taller body. And I think even one in between maybe, but it was nice to have different options so they didn't all look exactly the same.
Yeah, because that's the problem. You're standing them in a shelf, and otherwise, everyone's exactly the same, and it doesn't quite look as good. So yeah,
we've got more variety in the heights of our clones.
yeah, it's true. So moving on, 22 is Pong Krell. He's been on my list for at least a couple of years now. Again, he's one of those characters that I think a lot of people are starting to get behind now. I've kept him quite low on the list. I think I don't know if he needs the help. Hope not. But yeah, it'd be good to see him get onto the bracket again. And I think he'd be a fantastic figure. I think the thing that goes against him a little bit is whether or not you could get any reuse out of that figure. And I think, you know, when we look at a lot of these, and we're talking earlier about what some of these could then go on to create, I think there's a few on my list here, but there's some figures that you just think that'll be a one and done, really. So that might make it harder to get him. I don't know.
We can do a swole Dexter Jetster out of him. So
yeah.
from his
pre-diner
days.
Yeah. Before and after. So 21 again, it is another figure that possibly would be a one and done. But I think he's a cool figure, which is Grease. I don't even know how to pronounce his surname. Is it Dietrich? Dreitis, yeah, it could be. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Greasy Baby. I think he's a great character. I mean, I love the games. I think he's such a fun character. He's got all the best lines. You know, he's always having a joke. I love different quirky aliens anyway, and so for me, he ticks that box of an alien that we've never had before. And so I think, again, I could have put a lot more Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order figures into this list, but I try to mix it up a bit. So for me, he kind of represents those video game figures that I would want in here without listing them all. Again, that could backfire on me after what I was saying about Hunter, but yeah. But he's there for that reason anyway. Number 20 is Frog Lady. Don't need to say too much about Frog Lady. I mean, again, she's been in my list. She's been on my list since she first appeared. I think she would be great. You know, we spoke about it before. She's a great alien figure, just as an extra one we've never had. You know, you could put her in a cantina scene. You could put her in Navarro Cantina. I think that you could get some good use out of that. So, and she interacted with the crest. So it's another figure that we still don't have that interacts with the Razor crest.
And like you said, she was in the cantina in the show. So, you know. Yeah.
So, and I think it's, you know, she's just fun figure.
Should go with the spiders and everything that we have.
Yeah. In fact, she's the one thing we don't have to complete that scene. When you think of it that way. So, so number 19, Marok. Now again, I've in years past, I've always tried to give Hasbro a little bit of leeway, a little bit of kind of, you know, give them a bit of a chance to get out some of these newer figures. So when we're seeing new shows like last year, I didn't really have any Andor figures on my list. I thought I'd give them an opportunity, and we'll see how they get on. I'm kind of doing the same here with Ahsoka. So for me, Marok is the one that I'm throwing in there. I'm holding back on Balin and Shin. So spoiler, they're not in there. They're not in the next 18. And that's a little bit tactical. I think one that they'll do well anyway, I feel. But for me, I think there's more chance of getting those than perhaps there is Marok. And I think also for me, he stands for those kind of Inquisitors that we still haven't got. Again, we still seem to be missing so many Inquisitors. And so I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him come. Yeah, I've got that version. And it is great for what it is. But it's also frustrating when you want to put them with your TVC, you know, pose them around a bit. You know, it doesn't do the same job. So where do I get to? 18. So 18, another one who's a long time runner on my lists is General Leia Organa from The Force Awakens. So again, I think for me, this is the Leia that I kind of would like to remember. And the one that sort of stands as a bit of an action figure still, but you know, it's a main character. It's from the sequels. Yes, not everybody likes them, but I think she needs to be in the line. So enough said for that one, really. And I'll follow that on really with the next two. So at 17, I've got Finn, which is the Persona version, and again, Poe Dameron from the same one. Again, those two, they're main characters. We should have them. You know, not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, they are just a glaring omission. And so again, they'll be on my list for as long as they need to be on the list, I guess. This is where we'll get to a point. It'd be stalemate with Hasbro because I'm just going to have a whole solid 25 that are not going to change because I'm just going to be too stubborn. But no, yeah, so they're staying on the list. The next two, again, I'll do together. So 15 is Q90 and 14 is Mix Mayfield. Again, we got the later version, or the tank driver version, if you like, the later version. But we still don't have the first look of Migs. We still don't have Zero. Again, two figures which are in the Black Series. two figures which we need to again interact with a Razor Crest. And again, sort of throwing it in there, these represent the rest of the crew for me. I'd love to see all of that crew from The Prisoner. I just think, you know, again, they were Star Wars, the different characters, the different looks. I think it was great. And if we could get those, then I'd be pushing for some of those others as well.
And as we said before, Q90 is the second other character to drive the Razor Crest, so we need him.
Yeah, and he stays on it. He's you know, he's in pieces on it. Again, he can interact with Frog Lady. We can
just sell us a Build-A-Figure with all the pieces that we can.
Yeah. So, but that would be great. So again, just to zoom through the next three. So again, 13, 12, and 11. I've got Wrecker, Tech, and then Crosshair, the Imperial version. I'm not making the same mistake this year. I put Hunter on there on his own again to represent them, but I think now it's been too long. You know, we've done 2 seasons of Bad Batch. We're moving towards a 3rd season of Bad Batch. Black Series have had 2 different versions, you know, and we still only have 1 figure from the crew. So at the very least, I think Hasbro need to give us those 3. I'd take an Echo as well, but I haven't put her on my list just because for me, at the very least, we need to complete that crew, you know. So yeah, but again, they'll probably be on there now until they get made. So stick with me.
So forever.
Yeah. And then so moving into top 10, I mean, anyone who watched the live stream I did with you know, Tim and John and Chris, obviously these are the same top 10 that I put through for the last figure standing. So 10 is Palpatine, Sith Eternal. Again, iconic character. Can't say too much more about him. He needs to be made. I mean, this is the last version we've got of him, but he's the biggest baddie in Star Wars. I mean, we don't have this version, and it looks great as well. It's, you know, if they can get that soft goods right, it'll be a brilliant figure.
If I can say real quick, this reminded me, another thing to point out for the submissions is when people say Palpatine red robes, do you mean Sith Eternal Palpatine from Rise of Skywalker? Do you mean the Office duel version where he has red robes and he fights Mace and the other Jedi? Or do you mean the red robes where it's his Imperial coronation with thunderous applause?
Which one?
Does like the red.
Yeah. I had that on my first year list, that one. And I remember you asking me that same question.
Yes.
It's something I always forget to clarify. So sorry, I had to jump in and do it now. But
so we've got Sith Eternal. Sith Eternal is the Rise of Skywalker red. And then Senate Duel, I think, is that what we're calling, or Jedi Arrest or whatever his.
No, because not Senate Duel, because that's not the Senate Duel one.
No, okay, Jedi Arrest or.
Well, and you said Office Duel, but then there's two Office Duels too. So it's like, okay, that doesn't actually help us.
Sheev.
Right, nine. So yeah, dropping in on Solo, obviously Kira.
Speaking of red.
Again, red cloak. Yeah, I like this version of her. I think is great. We need a version of her in TVC, and to me, this is the one that should go in there. 8, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Again, you may or may not like the films, but I think he's a cool villain. He's just missing. You know, how do we not have him? We don't have that figure. It's crazy.
I think I mentioned directly to them in the last Q&A where it's like, yeah, we got a couple Rise of Skywalker figures. It's frustrating that none of them go together or share a scene, but you know.
Kylo would kind of bridge the ones together that we have. So
yeah. And also he would lead to another figure, but whatever. So
I knew that could be. So 7, I talked about the games earlier. Second Sister, I mean, again, she's one of those Black Series we just seem to have missed out on that one. We obviously don't have Cal Kestis as well from Fallen Order. That's another figure that was on my list in years past. I have kind of bumped him off just because we've got a figure that kind of scratches the itch. You know, it's not the same version. I would still like the Fallen Order version or versions, you know, more than one. But Second Sister's on there representing that for me. Number 6, I think he's another new entry this year, was Luthen. I didn't put, as I said last year, I didn't put Andor figures on just because I wanted to give Hasbro the benefit, but they've let me down. So, you know, Luthen's gone in there top 6 because we've got to have that figure. So important. But number 5 will bring a smile to Evan's face, which is Ben Solo. Again, I mean, I don't know how many times I can say this. Main character, we don't have him. I mean, come on, you know, I can't say much more than that. He should be on our shelves. He should be in our collection. He should be on a TVC card. Number 4 is a slightly more off the wall one, but it's Sergeant Melshi from Rogue One. I think I said this the other week in the live stream. You know, I think he's a cool figure. I think we need more Rogue One figures. I think he could potentially lead to other Rebel soldiers. But I think now we know more about Melshi and we've seen him in Andor, I feel that it makes his character more important from Rogue One. And I feel that I'd like to that version, and then perhaps an Andor version as well. But I would certainly like to see him, you know, even the tropical shirt version. Who knows?
Yes. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. So thank you for getting there.
But you know, I think this version would be great. And I think it would be the start for Hasbro to try and get us some of those decent Rebels, you know, well-articulated Rebel soldiers. So yeah, Melshi's on there.
Real quick, to circle back to Luthen, I see this question, which Luthen outfit? He has several. Oh, sorry.
Again, when there's no versions of a figure, I know I'm a bit cheeky saying this, but I would take any version. And, you know, which would I prefer? I don't want the wig version. I don't want the version where he's pretending to be an antique seller. But I know there's a few other versions around that as well. I quite like the one where he gives his speech. The sort of long cloak. That would be decent. But
I think personally, I've been defaulting to his early season Ferrex look that interacts with the Cassian that exists already.
And they have their big shootout at the end of the first arc.
To folks out there who do have Luthen on their list, I mean, specify if you do, which one you do want.
And if it's not important,
another
don't
point
worry.
Another point on that is that, sometimes we do condense the multiple outfits, but if there's none in the thing, and if they're like close enough, if it's going to split the votes and not get him on the bracket, because one guy wants the black outfit, one guy wants the green outfit.
Someone wants the wig.
Yeah, but similar to how the Rebels were dealt with previously, we would kind of throw them all together and then say, as of note, Hasbro, more people want the season 3 and 4 version than the season 1 and 2 version, but it's kind of we'll see how it shakes out. But
I think it's a worry that if he didn't make the bracket because too many people were asking for too many versions, and I think that's where, for me, I left it off deliberately. We'll slip him in wherever, you know. I'll go with the flow on that one. So nearly
sorry
there.
to derail.
That's all right. No, that's a good question. So number 3, Kino Lawyer. I mean, again, moving on to Andor, I love that show. I think he's a great character. I mean, who doesn't want a Kino in their collection? And I think, you know, from that, you could use the tool in and give us an army builder pack. I'd love to see a 4-pack of those. I'd love to just army build the hell out of them and just have them all running down a corridor with, you know, with their rifles. It would be great. It would be a great scene to replicate. So I don't know, you know, that's Kino's up there in number 3 for that reason. Number 2 is the Client. I mean, again, he's so overdue. We've got that cantina and we don't have him to complete it. I think he's a great character, and I actually think he's a really good villain. I just, you know, perfect Imperial. We need him in a figure. And then number 1, who has been my number 1 for the last 3 years now, is Dryden Voss, which again, I've said this a lot. He represents, for me, the missing things that we don't have that Black Series have. He represents that point when I feel Black Series started to get figures that we weren't getting. And that's where, for me, it's always been a bit of a sore point, because I remember Black Series getting him, and I remember thinking, that's all right, we'll get him soon. We'll get him in TVC. And then he just never came. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I want him so much. But also, I want to see more figures from Solo. He represents Solo. You know, I want to see more villains in the line. I know we just got a good bunch of villains actually in the last sort of wave or 2, but there's still a lot more we haven't got. And so, he's there for that reason, really, and he will stay there. And hopefully we'll get him on a bracket for the 4th year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a solid list, man. I really like that.
Yeah, I love it.
A little bit from
what I would just say, in terms, John will hate me for this, but in terms of the few that I did bump a few figures off. And again, talking about, we're trying to make a focus on what's important to me. And I've always said about the new figures and new characters not been done. What I had to do was try and squeeze that even more. And so I was kind of looking at, well, what figures now are more important? And so I actually dropped away a few background characters, and Simalu was one of them. So John, I'm sorry, I apologize. But for me,
That's all right.
Sim has been on my list for the last few years. But I just feel that we're at a point where we've got so many main characters that we need that I find it hard to be asking for a character that's going to go on the back of a display in a shelf, you know, tucked away somewhere when we've got these figures missing. So yeah, shoot me. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to finish the 96 and that, and I do want Sim. I do want him, and there's a lot of other OT figures I do want, but I had to start making those decisions, and so unfortunately, he was a casualty this year.
It's hard. You think with 25 it'd be easy, but it's
no.
still hard every year.
The slots fill up fast, and I see this comment. I was literally just about to say something like this. I look at your list, Lewis. I want everything there. It's, you know, the whole thing behind March Madness is we want it all, you know, we want more. And I personally approach it from a way of not negatively geared of what don't you want? It is, what do you want the most? And trying to celebrate all of this different stuff. And really, again, what we're doing right now, we talked about earlier, having these conversations. So yeah,
you have almost
that's where it's hard because
some of mine,
no, so I mean, I find it hard because I know people say, oh, well, you know, you don't want a new Hammerhead, or you don't want a new, you know, what about Luke? You know, don't you want a New Hope Luke? Well, it's like, yeah, I do want those figures, but I have to prioritize somewhere. And for me, I know you should never say anything's a given. We know nothing's a given. We know nothing's on its way, and we know, you know, we can't. But I have to feel that at some point Hasbro are going to do those figures. Whereas I feel like some of these, unless we make more noise about them, they won't do them. I know some people will argue it the other way around. Some people would say, well, they won't give us the OTs if we don't ask them. And again, that's where we all sit slightly differently. But those are the decisions I've had to make to get to this point, I suppose.
Yeah. You know, that you mentioned the OT, and spoiler alert, I don't think there's any OT on my top 25 list. And that is not because I don't want those figures. That is not because I don't like the OT. I don't like those characters. That is, I absolutely want those things. Those are high on my want lists. I think they are incredibly important. But like you just said, Lewis, it's about prioritizing, you know, other things that may not be as likely or easy or obvious.
Well, so I know Daniel Chart, I always see him getting upset in the chat when we don't have any OT for about 5 minutes. But again, and I've said it before, I love the original trilogy. I think, you know, A New Hope is my second favorite after Revenge of the Sith. I think it is literally a perfect film. Yeah. Even with or without Jabba, with or without moving dewbacks, whatever. I love them so much, which is why I have thousands of action figures from all three films. So,
Empire is
nice as it would be.
Yeah. Empire is my favorite film of all time.
It would be to get ultimate definitive versions of all of them. There are so many that we don't have anything from, and that's sort of also where I personally lean. I know a lot of people, again, the A New Hope mains always ranked very highly. But you know,
I mean, I grew up with
they don't need our
I grew up with the OT. You know, that is my era. I have all my original Kenner figures, and I think, you know, I've been collecting from day one, and I think that's partly why I do lean that way, is because I know the Luke, you know, I'm giving Farm Boy Luke as an example. I know the one we've got is not the greatest figure it could ever be. We could get much better, but I have got a lot of them in my collection. And so again, I always feel like I lean more towards something that I don't have at all, because it just excites me more. I just find it more interesting. But, people shoot me.
Sorry,
thanks for sharing, Daniel. That's very nice.
Thanks for looking out.
If you're concerned for my sanity now, just wait till you hear my list.
Yeah, wait till you see. My list is tame.
Yeah.
And tame Drin Garen has already been made from everyone's list. So don't even on that note, I got to get water real quick. I will be right back.
Yeah,
cool. Well, I may as well just start going through my
go for it. Yeah, sorry if that took a long while. Apologies.
No, that's okay. I got nowhere to be. This was my only plan for the day. So buckle up, everybody. You know, how many from my previous years have been made? Looks like 14 total. So from 2021, 11 of them were made, which, you know, is a lot of the Mando ones. It's a lot of the overlap with what you had, Lewis. And that also includes like Count Dooku, Princess Leia from A New Hope. I did have OT on my early days lists. I think I had Ben Obi-Wan Kenobi on previous lists as well. And I think Hammerhead. So again, really do want the OT. So then in 2022, 3 more were made. And then 2023, 0 of my list were made, other than the ones that were, you know, repeats. Kanan and the Grand Inquisitor were the only 2 that appeared on my top 25. last year that have figures coming. That said, you'd think it'd be pretty straightforward for me to then adjust and be like, okay, I'll just take those 2 off and only 2 new people are getting on my top 25 list. It's tough because it is also like Jedi Legend Obi-Wan that we talked about earlier. Most wanted figure of all time. He was on my list last year, not on my list this year, because I think we're close to achieving that figure through creative reuse. I think he's possible as opposed to a pipe dream now. Like, we're close to him. So, and then moving stuff around again, Ahsoka, new media and stuff coming around, and then also just kind of certain things that are the hot and now, or things that I think maybe are just fading away a little bit too much, or, you know, it's fun. I don't need to explain myself any further. I'm going to just do that until I'm red in the face. Honorable mentions. I did not put High Republic on my list this year. Markion Ro, Stellan Gios, Avar Chris, those Jedi and the Nihil and the villains, because I'm fingers crossed hoping that the Acolyte ends up kind of providing some tooling needed to make some of these characters as we move into next year and the year after. Just hoping what we see, you know, if we see anything good, if we get anything good for that, maybe they'll be back on my list next year. We'll find out. So, also Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, but I'll explain that in just a sec. So my number 25 pick is Nubs from Young Jedi Adventures. Okay, so we're talking about sanity. I like Star Wars. I love Star Wars. And I also love having fun with Star Wars. I love when Star Wars is just goofy sometimes, like John does. And also Nubs. Yes, sure. Meme potential. I'm putting it on here as a goof. Yes, I've also got one up here.
I got the Starfighter. I got to open it still.
I just think it's fun. He's also voiced by D. Bradley Baker. I saw a custom. I don't remember. Forgive me. I don't remember who put that out there. Someone made a custom.
Is it Colin Hobbs? Colin Hobbs.
Okay. Using an Ewok as a base, and it was just fun. I think Nubs. I think it's a goofy, fun character. It's whatever. It's not going to go on the bracket. Don't worry, guys. I'm wasting my point here, but it's fun. Then, you know, similar to like the OT number 24, I've got Balin. Number 24 is Shin. Number 23 is Balin. I have a lot of faith that they don't need a lot of points from me. I still want to put them on my list as kind of, you know, a point of I do really, really, really want these. But I know they're going to do pretty well. They did well in Last Figure Standing, Balin especially. So yeah. Number 22 is Peli Motto. You know, the N1 is an incredible vehicle. She goes with that. You know, she's an important character, kind of like how Carson was the glue of the Mando era. Peli also shows up in a lot of the main story there in the Mando stuff. So, real quick, if you know it's not going on the bracket, why put it on the list? Because I want it. That's the answer.
That's the whole point.
Well, you never know. You never know how many people will put it. You know, will vote.
Spoiler alert.
Sometimes it's
not many. But yeah, you know, Peli could also, you know, they could reuse the BD1 sculpts, you know, world building, folks. So it's great. Number 21, Dryden Voss, Lewis, that's for you. I try to put the number 1 picks of my SWTVC teammates on my list to show solidarity and support.
Yeah, sorry,
except for you, John. Yeah, because Simalu is not going on my list ever.
We've also just ruined John's number 1 pick, by the way. But there you go.
Yeah, well,
from previous years, we talked about
yeah.
So, but yes, number 20, Finn from Rise of Skywalker. Don't need to say more about that. Maul from Solo, his Crimson Dawn look. I found an image that wasn't his hologram since it was a little clearer. I mean, hologram figures would be cool, but I would also just like a cool, straightforward version of this.
I was about to pull up my Black Series Holocom figures, and I realized I'd better not get booed off the stream. So
yes, please don't, please don't. My next one is number 18, Luke Skywalker Jedi Training Flashback, coupled with number 17, Leia Organa Jedi Training Flashback. That was just a fun scene. Was it silly? Sure. Was the CGI? Whatever. Like, do we need it? No, but I liked it. I really like these looks. I like the idea. Again, a glimpse into that post Return of the Jedi. You know, did Leia become a Jedi or sort of thing? I like that. I want more of that. I do want these figures. It's a very dynamic scene. I love it. Number 16. I'm sorry.
I'll just say those 2 were on rumor lists years ago for Black Series anyway, but they never materialized. So keep up the convo for those 2.
And we did just see those helmets, I think, in Ahsoka and the T6. Were they in the Jedi?
Maybe it's similar.
Yeah, similar helmets. So yeah, anyway, I like that. Number 16 is the second sister Inquisitor. Again, we already mentioned it, but we need more villains in the line. We'll keep saying that until it happens, which I will say this past year has shown quite a bit of change on that front. You know, Revan, Krennic, Dooku, Jango. We're starting to slowly get more of those. Yes, more of those villains we've been asking for. It's nice when our action figures can actually have the duels that they had in the shows and the movies. It's tough when they don't have anybody to interact with. 15, Cobb Vanth. Put him on there. Armored, of course, is my preference, but I think, you know, one could beget the other. So if whichever one they do first, I think would then make the next one very likely. Luthen is on my list as well. I already mentioned defaulting to kind of the Ferrix look, although I think this is a screen grab from when he's talking to Saw. Is that the same outfit?
I assume he's another one where they could reuse a lot of.
I can't see the pictures.
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Yes, they're very small.
No, at least those outfits are very similar. Yeah.
So number 13 is Ahsoka Tano from Rebels. You know, we as a community collectively did that little thing of hashtag got the ghost. So we've got the ghost coming. We've got Rebels coming to TVC in a very big way. And now I want Hasbro to continue supporting that large purchase through other figures that build the Rebels world. And that includes a character that is almost a part of the Spectre crew. I mean, a very big, prominent character, Ahsoka. So yes, I would love that.
And she was one of the finalists years ago in the poll, the official StarWars.com poll that Dr. Afra won. That's always a thing where a lot of Legends fans kind of gravitate towards those polls that are a little outside the regular, you know, TVC collector Saw Gerrera type caves where we discuss this stuff. But yeah, I don't see a ton of support for the Rebels Ahsoka. So nice to keep that flame still burning.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about her in a while, and it was just like, you know what, we're in an Ahsoka renaissance right now, so may as well get one. And again, having the Ghost Crew coming really does help in kind of reigniting that fire for me. Number 12, Palpatine Sith Eternal. Again, Palpatine, red robes, awesome. Number 11, Yaddle from Tales of the Jedi. You will recall she was higher up on my list last year, alongside Jedi Master Count Dooku. We now have Attack of the Clones Count Dooku coming. I feel like they could do a slight retool, maybe a new torso or hands and head for to make a Jedi version of that character. So spoiler alert, he's not number 10. He's not on my list this year, but Yaddle will stay because I think that, you know, if they did an all new, modern, definitive, articulated Yaddle, that would lead to Yoda. And we could get an awesome new Yoda. And we're getting close to, you know, Revenge of the Sith anniversary, so that would be nice too, to have a Yoda that can actually do cool stuff. But yeah,
do cool.
Like
that. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna mute your mic there. Number 10 is Bodhi Rook. He has been on my list every year. I know a lot of people put Baze Malbus on their list. But my pick for the next in the incredibly slow drip feed of Rogue One stuff is going to be Bodhi. I love me some Riz Ahmed. I just love the character. So he's my important Rogue One addition here. Princess Leia Organa. I know that everybody tends to want, like Lewis, you were saying, to remember Leia by, you know, the general look. And that's more of an action figure. That's more exciting. I totally agree. I do want that as well. I do just want this version though of Leia, since I do have a Leia from The Force Awakens in my collection, even though she looks not good. And I do have a really nicely done but horribly limited articulation one from The Last Jedi, which I also enjoy.
That one looks
the figure
a lot better than
looks great. This one I do want one from Rise of Skywalker. Again, another figure that would interact with that Rey figure that we have, who currently has no one to talk to other than maybe Zori for a second. I don't know. Yes, build that little beat out just a little bit. And then Han Solo from The Force Awakens. I think I've asked for him every year. You know, we have the 5 POA one, also not great. Black Series fans have gotten not one, but 2 cracks at this figure. They even invested in giving him a new head sculpt. Is that what they did on the archive release? So even their repacks get new stuff sometimes.
So that he could look nice when he was at Ross for $5.
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever. Again, going back to the whole main characters thing, man, like the guy carried that film. I love Han Solo. We need all the Han Solos.
Yeah.
We need a good one. Of course, the A New Hope one is the one that I understand is the most wanted, and I want that too. I just also want this. So, number 7. This was a fun one. Keller and Beck. I was so happy to see Ahmed Best back in Star Wars and getting to canonize his character from that little what was it, that Jedi Temple Challenge or whatever kids game show from YouTube. Seeing him brought into the canon, not only as an awesome Jedi, but in an incredible costume and as the guy who saved Grogu from Order 66. Awesome, dude. Like I just stoked to see him. And I instantly, as soon as I saw that scene, thought he's going on my top 10 for sure this year. I need that figure. Also, cool. Jedi tooling there. He's got a unique thing. We can't just reuse a Jedi body for his costume because it's, again, unique. Number 6, Merrick, similar to kind of what you were saying, Lewis. I have faith in Balin and Shin coming to the line far more so than I have faith in them doing Merrick. They seem to be unwilling to make Inquisitors for 3 3/4 inch collectors, reluctant to at least. I guess they offered him to retro fans, but they also did that with Grand Inquisitor, where we had to make a lot of noise. I'm sure he was planned.
Bravo, we still don't have. Yeah.
Yep. So that's one that I hope they don't think, oh, good enough, we did it in retro and Black Series, and that, nah, I don't want to even risk that. So, he duels Ahsoka twice. Dynamic action characters and lightsaber wielders need articulation, so let's get them. Number 5. Oops, sorry.
Okay, can I first? Hi, Victoria. Thanks for joining us. Victoria's Cantina just joined. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
As for Merrick, I keep thinking, as I walk the dog, I have these ideas. I can't get them out of my brain. They could do a 2-pack with it's a newly tooled Merrick plus his repaint of his HK 87 that's unique from the Corellia duel, or they can do one with Ahsoka, with the cloak as a 3-pack, or they can do a 4-pack with those beautiful protocol droids that have the C1D1 that have the red and the black. Just options here. We got options, but if they need to balance it out with some existing parts, that's what I've been thinking about. So
yeah,
think about it.
Oh,
I love that. Speaking of things I'd love to have is Ezra Bridger, Paradia. We mentioned the spelling thing. Don't sweat it. I loved Ezra's Space Moses kind of look at the, when he came back. I thought his translation to live action was perfectly done. Loved the performance. I'm also a sucker for lightsabers, so it was great, seeing him build his 3rd lightsaber, and it's very much evocative of Kanan's with, the same emitter and some other minor details, but just want that real bad. I don't want Hasbro to skip him. I fear they will, and that's why he's ranked very high on my list here.
Hey, they're making the hologram version that's totally not just the HasLab one again.
Yeah, God. Anyway, Ben Solo, hashtag bring me Ben Solo, a favorite on my lists every year, where I'm always assured no one wants that, Evan. You're an idiot.
Even though he's in the bracket every single time.
He's made the bracket every year. Yes. So hashtag bring me Ben Solo, the last blood Skywalker. Let's do it. Number 3, his mother, but as a child, Princess Leia Organa, little Leia from Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is another one where I think Hasbro doesn't want, they seem, again, averse to making small or child characters in the line, child characters in particular. This is a character that has no figure representation whatsoever in any capacity outside of a Funko Pop, but that doesn't count.
Well, they're starting to this year, so it's another thing of I don't know if she was held back, but yeah, now she has a Funko Pop. There was a Christmas ornament this year, which I saw some people using. It kind of scales well, maybe with either. I think more with the Black Series, maybe, but and then there's a statue that should be coming out soon. I think it was put up for pre-order a while ago, but so maybe I'm sure she was kept a total surprise from retail partners. Or
did Lucasfilm hide her under their coat?
Yeah.
Never know.
Then again, we are coming up on what, 2 years that show's been out.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying. So there's more things coming out now, but yeah, Hasbro still needs to get to her.
Yes, yes. So moving on to number 2 on my list, and for years I've avoided putting something that's already been made in quote unquote decent quality before, in terms of where we're at with figure quality now, articulation, what's possible. This one is one that I think is time. I've already mentioned it. It's Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. Hasbro, I'm going to just invoke Tyler here real quick and say, Hasbro, if you're listening, for the love of God, do not repack or reuse the already existing Obi-Wan. That figure goes back to 2005. It's junk. We need an all new definitive version. Again, talking about, growing up with Star Wars, I am a child of the prequels as much as I liked to pretend I wasn't for the longest time and rebelled against that. Obi-Wan and Anakin were the duo for me, and we really need Obi-Wan. So I may as well just lump this in with my number 1 pick is Anakin. I picked a photo of him from Ahsoka. I would like him on either card, or maybe on a Revenge of the Sith card, and a deluxe release with Ahsoka branding, maybe an alternate head sculpt, include a dark side head with Sith eyes or whatever, a red version of his lightsaber, an alternate hand, whatever. We need it.
That's a spirit version, yeah.
Spirit version, because yes, if they did that, we need these two. This is my duo. This is the Star Wars duo I grew up with. Like, this is the one that really sticks with me. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier with the Yoda stuff being close to, or within that kind of 18-month window leading into 2025, which is the 20th anniversary already of Revenge of the Sith. Again, under any circumstance, like, they should not release and repack or reuse any parts from the existing ones. Obi-Wan and Anakin need to be all new, up to modern definition or modern definitive standards. Like, we gotta have them. They need to be fully articulated with all the bells and whistles. That's my piece. I could rant about this for days.
Good job.
Obviously, I'm fired up about it, but
I love it.
No,
There
I
are
can see
16
Anakin doing
lightsaber.
really well.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, John.
No, because I think Anakin was in the last figure standing top 10. But I was going to say there were 16 lightsaber wielders actively in this photo, plus even Episode 9 Leia. She's holding one in the image, even though she doesn't wield it. And so
Also,
you love your
someone
Jedi,
said,
and I love it.
Someone said no aliens. I see 3 of them at a glance on my list. But also, again, asking for main characters here, having to prioritize the mains for myself as opposed to the things that are more tertiary. And there aren't, and just how it falls is many of these main characters are humans or humanoid. So yes, I'm sorry for lacking in imagination there, but
And if you don't have if you don't like the lack of aliens, put them on your list.
Exactly. My list is not your
Sure
list. And I guarantee I want everything on your list as well, even if you don't want everything on mine. Again, I want it all of it. So
Can you pop that link in the chat one more time? For some reason, the chat is not working.
yes,
Please put your money where your mouth is. Put your list where your mouth is.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of people sometimes saying, "Oh, yeah, I don't want to see that figure. I don't see it." Well, make sure you do your own list. I mean, it's important. It's important that you have your say, because we always get this. We get to March and we put that 64 bracket up, and people kind of go, "How did that 64 get there?" And this is how they got there. We got everybody's data and we put it all together. If you don't give us a list, even if you can't come up with 25, give us 20. Give us 15. If you can't think of that many, then I'll be a bit worried. But if you don't want to put 25 in, just do what you can. But it all helps to feed that bracket. It all helps to support the characters that you want to see. Because at the end of the day, you can't moan if you haven't had your say in the first place.
Yeah. Yep. And, again, just personally speaking, I try to approach this again from a positive thing of, asking for what I want. It's not about asking or just exhibiting what I don't want or trying to, you know, be a little negative about it. I want this to be very much celebrating the things that we all want, and we all want different things. And that's what makes this interesting. Wouldn't it be boring if we all wanted the same exact thing?
Yeah.
Granted, we'd probably get them, but you know.
Well, this is also
yeah.
saying, you know, because everybody's got different lists and everybody's got different priorities, but when we smash them all together, then certain things rise to the top. And that's what this is all about. So what are the things that, you know, most people can agree on? Again, it's not going to be representative 100% of every single person's top wants, but it, you know, that's the idea to kind of, what's the consensus here?
Yeah.
As Paul Hadley says, I can give you a top 100 if you want.
I've got like a top like 500 in my phone. That's,
let's say you got to prioritize. But I think interestingly, I think we probably think slightly differently about these things in terms of how we can get certain characters more visual, or, you know, how we can just make a point about certain characters or just get them out there. So sometimes our lists perhaps aren't necessarily, don't get me wrong, they're the ones I want. But I think, you know, what other people may look at is more straight down the line, whereas we deliberately, I think, sometimes try and veer off a little bit with some of our stuff. Just conversation, you know, various reasons, really.
Yeah. And again, it's similar to what, you know, I said about Jedi Legend Obi-Wan being my most wanted figure in general of all time across the board. Not on my list, just because I think about it from a way of like, I think they could make this already. I think it could exist. I understand that not everybody out there has driven themselves absolutely insane digging into tooling and all that stuff. That's good. Be a normal, productive, contributing member of society. Just me doing this is, you know, that's how I approached it.
Love it.
So
a lot of love for the Nubs in the comments. I love to see it.
Yeah, Nubs Nation, man. Let's do this. Let's get him on the bracket. My 1 point helps, that's for sure. Well, enough about my list. You know, I thank you guys for bearing with me as I went through it. John, let's take a look at what is sure to be a wacky list from you.
Yeah, you said you didn't see enough aliens. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. As the great Frank Reynolds would say, I'm going to get real weird with it. So quickly, from my previous years, 10 figures have been made, if you can believe that. And some of them, maybe they, you know, a lot of reuse, maybe repaints and whatnot. So apologies to Tyler. But from 2021, there were 8 that were made, including General Antok Merrick, Bo-Katan Kryze, Bespin Security Guard Helder Spinoza. I love that mustache representation in the line. Paz Vizsla, who I don't even think had a name at the time. Anyway, the Purge Trooper, Clone Trooper from the 332nd Company, and of course my boy Hu Yang and Velkin Tazeri, who finally completed the first skiff this year. So there's an OT guy for you. And then an honorable mention that was on my list in the first year was Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mandalorian Disguise, which, as we said, has not been made. But after all the new parts came out over the last few years, I sort of expected them to, and I could do a custom if I wanted to, but I'd rather get a real one. So 2022, there were 3 more, which there were 3 repeats, but the 3 new ones were Hunter. Maybe that's just, no, sorry, 2 new ones, which were Hunter and Antok Merrick's droid R2 SHW when they released the X-Wing without a droid to go with it, which was nuts to me. But, and then, 2023 on my list last year, I had Hu Yang and Velkin again, which had been on my previous lists as well. And I was so elated to see Hu Yang got the live action spotlight this year, and a figure is coming very soon. So there you go. Did not expect that to happen. A few honorable mentions from this year's list. As with your guys's, a lot of them is carried over from the last few years, plus some new additions, which we'll get to. But some that sort of just missed this year were Grief Karga from season 1. And again, I think they can do a lot of him from the season 2 version. I wish they would just kind of knock that out along with the clients to finish off the Navarro Cantina playset. Theron Nett, the X-Wing pilot, Red Tin, who, as I've gone over a lot of these choices on the various podcasts we've done over the last 2 years, our individual episodes. You can go listen to those. But he's the last speaking Yavin pilot, so I wanted him to complete that crew. And then the First Order Jet Trooper, who was a cool one. We got the Sith Jet Trooper, so I'm kind of like, at this point, you know, that's better than nothing. And then, as with your list, Lewis, I used to have General Leia Organa from The Force Awakens on mine in her gas station attendant vest look. And I would love to see that because she's a main character of all of the films and of the saga in general. And we don't have her look in the scale. So
there were 3 Leias on my list just thinking about it.
I know.
So,
I love it.
yeah.
Okay. So for this year, number 25 is Shin Hati. Number 24, it's Balin Skull. You got to have them together. So they were in my top 10 for last figure standing, but as I have thought and overthought and overanalyzed my list and discussed it with you guys, again, I assume they will do quite well again, as they did in last figure standing. Everybody wants them. Everybody knows that everybody wants them. So I decided I had them much higher. I dropped them down just to still have them on the list, to still say I love the Ahsoka series. I love what they did for it in terms of figures, but these two are the big glaring omissions among many, many others. But these two are the big ones for me from that show. So gotta have them on there. Okay, so if you like weird Jabba's Palace aliens, number 23, Kane Addis. I don't think it can possibly get any weirder than this. Maybe the light bulb guy.
Again,
Let's get out of
hard
the
to
movie.
find a good photo of.
This is pretty much the only one.
That's the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. As I always say, we don't know what their body looks like. You know, what's going on here? Is it the same thing? Is it two different bodies? Is it a two-headed giraffe man? Is it a snake? Is it a cat dog thing? I don't know, but
it's just a couple of
Okay, I'm
socks,
sorry.
isn't it? On someone's hand.
it's
just a pair of
yeah,
socks.
pretty much.
You just talked me into wanting Kane Addis. If it is a cat dog situation, I would pay good money for that on a card.
Part of why I want the figure is so that they're forced. Lucasfilm is forced to design a body for them, which then you can agree or disagree. But yeah.
Oh man.
So number 22, as is on your shirt, Evan, is Padme Amidala in her lake gown. I always say we need more Padmes in the line. Black Series is getting a version of her episode 1 Theed battle look, which I will say as an aside would be great to have in vintage collection and could lead to a 4-pack of her handmaidens in that outfit, which would be an amazing way to get those 4 handmaidens and a nice little 4-pack that is, a group of 4 in the film itself. So, yeah, but I love this look for Padme. I want any Padme in the line, especially the ones that have never been made. So that's why she's there.
We only have one Padme in the line so far, right?
Well,
The
in
peasant disguise. Oh, and then the Queen Amidala.
Yeah, we have a
Also
few, but I mean,
not a main look.
and
None of
I will
them
say in
looks
general,
good.
as the way that I look at this stuff, because I've been collecting since 97, and I have everything from 95 until now, so I don't really need every single thing on a vintage card. I know I design vintage cards, but if there is a pretty good version of her other outfits, I don't need them all updated. I would prefer they spend the tooling on a new version of her. So yeah. So as Matthew Brazier says, I've seen that Kane Addis photo a lot, but don't know if I can place him in the film anywhere. Where is he, she, it, they, them, whatever this thing is. When Luke and Han are being presented to Jabba after their Rancor shenanigans, and there's that shot of everybody. I think, no, actually, I lied. It's on the. It's either that or it's in the part where Leia and Han are before Jabba, and there's like a staircase full of people. He's on the palace steps, kind of in the background there.
Literally blink and you miss it.
Yeah, or even watch the film and still miss it. Because for a long time, nobody knew if it was actually in the film or not. But yeah, it's up on those steps.
A compelling action figure for
exactly.
sure.
Well, it's a wacky design. It's something I've never seen before.
I'm just giving you crap.
Number 21, Kino Loy, much higher on Lewis's list, and I frankly might move him up. But again, it would lead to. I would just love any of the prisoners because one could lead to all the others pretty much. I know they might have slightly different builds, but Cassian, Melshi, Kino, we can get Olaf. I just rewatched The Fifth Element and noticed that Olaf was in that movie. And as he says, a prison figure would be perfect or perfection, whatever he says in that movie. But yeah, so instant army builder right there. I would love to see it. We need more barefoot dudes in the line. Just kidding. I don't know. Love that character. Hope he comes back for season 2. Hope he learned to swim or something. But number 20, Frog. So what?
You got a dinghy somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, give him the little orange water wings.
Yeah.
So number 20, Lewis, you also had her on your list, Frog Lady. Got a hashtag fight for Frog Lady lover for all the reasons you said and more. She just warms my heart. It's I rewatched season 2 of Mandalorian. Obviously, Cobb Vanth is a big one. I do not have him on my list. Spoiler alert.
You two have
foolishly seems like a foregone conclusion. But what?
You two have Frog Lady at the same exact ranking on your list. 20.
Ironic.
We're a dyad in the Force. But yeah, after rewatching season 2, she's one of the major. That season has been incredibly well covered in TVC overall, and I'm really glad to see it. And there's a few glaring ones like Cobb, like Carson, and my favorite Frog Lady. So yeah. Number 19 is Poe Dameron in his Rise of Skywalker outfit. As you said, at least we was thinking how we even got after we were talking about Carson in his formal dress attire, I forgot that we got Poe Dameron in his like formal officer outfit too, which he wears at the end of Force Awakens for literally 1 second. He waves and that's it.
Yeah.
In that Star Trek, the motion picture looking like soft blues 70s. Yeah.
And yet we don't have, and we have his X-Wing pilot version, which, it's the same in all 3 movies, apart from some helmet differences, but they re-released the figure for 9 from 7, but we don't have his main like adventurer look from 9, and I still want it. And as you said, he'll probably be on the list until such a time as we do.
Anytime, sorry to totally derail. Anytime I hear the name Poe Dameron, I think of the James Cameron song from South Park. I just hear it's like his name is Poe Dameron, Resistance Pioneer. It's so stupid. So sorry, guys. I needed to get that out to someone.
I love it. Thank you. This is a place for our intrusive thoughts to roam free.
Yes.
So number 18. Sorry, he's this low, but Lewis is number 1. Dryden Voss.
At least he's on there.
Said, yeah, didn't even get him in the 5 POA line. I know he was rumored. As you said, that was the point when Black Series that was when the balance of scales started really going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe getting better now, maybe a little bit, but still that a lot of those solo figures we still need in vintage collection, including him and Kira and Maul. So next, and from your most wanted to one of Evan's most wanted is number 17, #Bring Me Ben Solo. Of course, got to get a major character, a major part of the movie. Again, maybe they could repack him with that Rey again, who I know is kind of hard to get. She needs her yellow lightsaber. She needs Leia's lightsaber. She needs, or a 3-pack with Palpatine or something.
I meant to say, I forgot to say it when I mentioned Ben Solo and mine, and I kind of alluded to it when Lewis was doing his list. Regardless of if they did Ben Solo first or Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, one would provide most of the parts for the other. Yeah. If they did Ben first, it would provide the legs. I mean, they could probably just be lazy and reuse the head as well, but whatever. But yes, it would provide some meaningful parts to achieve the other one. So if they did Kylo first, it would probably be easier for them to take a couple shortcuts on a Ben Solo. But got to get him in the line.
Maybe not that it's super enticing to some people, but I do love The Last Jedi. So if you haven't already tuned out now, go ahead. But
I'm glad you said it so you can take the heat and I don't have to say it.
But is his outfit in, other than the helmet, obviously, his outfit in 8 and 9 is the exact same or very similar, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's minus the helmet and the cape. So
okay,
yeah, it's got a hood in Rise of Skywalker. It has a hood. In Last Jedi, it's a different cape.
Okay, you can at least use it for the great Praetorian Guard scene in Last Jedi. I'm just realizing I don't have the Praetorians from Mandalorian on my list, but there you go.
Whoops.
The way something else.
Yeah. So, but way more important than that is number 16, Jackson. Of course, way more action packed. But he's another one. He's been on, maybe half jokingly, maybe half serious, but he's been on a lot of old timer fans lists for a long time. And I grew up in the era where he was, wanted and kind of a silly guy. Now we got a lot of silly guys. Thank God, we need more. Mm-hmm. But the fact that Black Series got him after decades of 3.75-inch fans having him on the list, maybe not at the top of the list, but
so successful.
Would be nice.
Black Series fans really wanted him. He was keeping him, but Force Awakens Han company at Ross.
On a recent Q&A, they mentioned, I think Chris Reif of the brand team mentioned, he's like, if you want Jackson, get him to the top of the list. So he's not quite at the top of my list, but I do want him, Chris. So please, for the love of God, design a Jackson. And the Black Series only reused parts from X-Wing Luke and Tatooine Luke. So maybe once they get a new Tatooine Luke, we can talk about it. He also has some kind of Ezra Rebels vibes a little bit with some of the orange and yellow stripes and stuff like that. So I don't know, maybe, but number 15 is Asajj Ventress, but particularly in her bounty hunter look. I know we've discussed it before, and it's the same as her Dark Disciple look, minus some hair and a different lightsaber. But love that look. I would be very happy with any Ventress. I'd like to get one into the line at least.
Yeah, please.
But this is, as I mentioned earlier, I got a lot of figures from the latter half of Clone Wars when they basically stopped making any animated figures. They don't exist in any form. Animated, 6-inch, 5 POA, anything. Some of these figures that I would obviously love in TVC more than anything else. But yes, silly figures, Ben Quadneros, as Trevor Ritchie says, yes. He's one of the GOAT silly dudes in all of Star Wars. Number 14. Hold on. It's Holdo. She's always been on my lists. Let's bring in number 13 too. I'll talk about him together. Finn from Pisana. So a couple of sequel characters, maybe not everyone's cup of tea. But again, Holdo was in the wave with Dryden for Black Series, where it was like, okay,
I was just going to say that
0% chance we're ever going to get those figures. Yeah.
I remember the same thing when she came out in Black Series. I can remember seeing the reveal, thinking, "Oh yeah, we're going to get a Holdo next," And again, it's like, "What? Where is she?" And that was when it really was so obvious that all of a sudden they were just getting all the new media, and we were just, you can get some scraps,
Yeah. And in terms of Finn, he at least got a 5-inch Galaxy of Adventures. Was it Galaxy of Heroes? Galaxy of Adventures. Galaxy of Adventures figure. There's been so many galaxies.
Yeah.
But again, same with Poe. Now they're on top. Well, I won't say on top of each other for all the Storm Pilot shippers out there, but give me a little treat every now and then. But yeah, the fact that they're putting we've talked about it before, the fact that they're putting a Finn in Vintage Collection, the thought is nice. The fact that it's a figure that pegwormed hard and no one really wanted a re-release of is not so nice, but I would have liked this. And the fact that he wears a very Han Solo-esque outfit means they could use parts from maybe the sort of not great Endor Han, or ideally an all new A New Hope Han whenever they get around to it. Hopefully by the 50th anniversary, but then we can get a Finn out of the deal. Which
50th anniversary of Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah. This year we're coming up on the 5th anniversary of Rise of Skywalker, so maybe
where does the time go, guys?
Yeah, I don't know. But 12 new character this year, Kelleran Beck. As you said, this is one that Evan actually pointed out was not on my list, and I said, you know what? I'll add him. Why not?
Yeah.
Because I will probably not shock anyone to say that I love Jar Jar, and I always have loved Jar Jar, and I love Ahmed, and he was a pioneer in the space, much like number 21 Andy Serkis, but Ahmed doesn't get enough credit for revolutionizing his part in revolutionizing movies and visual effects and technology and stuff like that. Seeing him come back, and Kelleran especially, because I did watch some of that game show a few years ago, seeing him as such a pivotal part of the story of Grogu and the Mandalorian was amazing. And I hope against hope that when he got in that Naboo ship, I was like, please God, can he go meet Jar Jar and they can go save Grogu together? So maybe there's an Ahmed Best double act coming up. But yeah,
that'd be a good 2-pack.
Yeah, hell yeah. So let me talk about some of these questions real quick. Ben Swallow asked, can the TBS Leia reuse tooling for Holdo? That's an interesting question. The one with the dress.
Yeah, the Broomhilda looking
one. I have not thought about that, but that is interesting. I know
the legs
taller, but
slightly different on the top, isn't it? But
the torso has a different shape.
Different top, but maybe the arms, maybe.
Bottom half, probably, at least.
Yeah. And number 20 is Frog Lady. She's a little bit dark, but she's hopping into our hearts anyway. Okay, so 11, another Mandalorian character is Pelimado. She was in my top 10. I had to rethink a few things. I might still, even at the end of this, I might rethink a few things, but thank God for that edit feature on our Google submission form. But like Evan said, now that we got the N1, she popped up a few spaces. She was on my list last year, but now that we have that, she's a little more necessary, I think. Get her pit droids out. Now that we have R5D4 too, we're kind of building the line around her, but we still need Peli, and I love Amy Sedaris. I think she's always a hilarious character when she shows up. So yeah, need to see her. but I had to bump her down a little bit because I had to get these two guys in the top 10.
And not as
Maybe
one
not
entry.
quite up there, but staying with the most Espa, most Eisley kind of situation. Got to get Kitster and Wald in the line. It's been too long. We got to get him in there again. They're saying, where are we? Where are we? It'd be so amazing to recreate that high five. But had to get him up a little bit because it's the 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace this year. I know they're probably not coming this year, but they're those guys that are like, they made so many episode 1 figures, and Lando Griffin, both on Facebook and on Instagram, he just posted a picture of all the episode 1 figures from over the years in one image, and glaringly omitted was Kitster and Wald. There are a few others that, like the Gela twins, I'm sure some of the secondary pod racers and stuff like that, but these guys they have a lot of screen time, and there's no representation of them at all anywhere. So let's fix it. And they showed up in the comics, if that means anything. I don't know. Yeah, let's get some Pitroids in there. Would love it. And I think Kitster could share tooling with a new Anakin from episode 1 if they wanted to. I know he's not on my list, but and he's almost definitely not coming this year for the vintage collection, even though he is coming for Black Series. But would be nice. Would be nice.
Yeah.
And again, as Paul Hadley says, 2-pack. We've wanted a 2-pack for years, but I think at this time we gotta, they look great on their own cards, and I gotta start following the rules, I guess.
Yeah, 2 cards.
Yeah, but in a 2-pack
yeah,
together. Yes, yes. It would just be amazing. So please. And then another Tatooine prequel character who has long been missing is my boy Klieg Lars. Shmi is my wife. So we got Anakin's friends, and we got Anakin's stepdad or whatever his relationship is. But and I was looking, frankly, I think they could reuse Wandering Jedi Obi-Wan's torso for this guy. Maybe he's got some similar Tatooine vibes.
I think the arms too.
I'll take anything.
No, upper arms.
Not the legs.
Slightly out of shape, Obi-Wan, isn't they?
Yeah. But yeah, put him in a deluxe box with the wheelchair and some Tusken Raider weapons or something. But
they'll save money on the legs. So
yeah, but obviously there's so many figures we want, and maybe they're not everyone's top priority. But in the days of the prequels, episode 1, 2, and 3, we got every single background character, every main character, many times over, articulated with action features otherwise. But these guys were never quite made. And maybe it's just because, maybe much like the Tonicas, they're just they never quite had them. Klieg. Daniel Chart upset again.
I saw Daniel Chart's.
Someone on this chat has a Star Trek tattoo, and I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, it's not me.
Yeah, and it's Hamdam. I don't know how you pronounce that, but episode 1 Tatooine Anakin would be nice with a helmet, bag tools, etc. So I was trying to show a little more prequel love. It's fantastic that we're finally getting a newly tooled prequel character in the line with Dooku, but I would like some characters that I haven't had 40 times over already as well. It would be nice. So yes. I just couldn't ride anymore to my leg heels. So another equally awesome warrior, number 7, Pong Krell, as you said, Lewis. But another prequel design, another I don't know. I love the Umbara arc. I think we got the waxer that we got in that 4-pack actually is from that arc. So it's the first TVC figure from that arc, I believe. Damn. Okay, cool. But yeah, I give 4 thumbs up to Pong Krell coming to the line. So that would be awesome to see. He's got 2 double-bladed lightsabers. What's not awesome about that? So, or does he have 4? I don't even remember, but it's awesome. Anyway, he's been on my list so long I don't remember anything about him. Number 6. This guy jumped. Speaking of, if you thought that was weird, you got to go Lumpy. He was number 25 last year, but I know he doesn't have the articulation that everyone is excited about. But nothing made me smile more this year than finding out about and receiving Life Day Chewbacca in the line.
Yeah.
But so the fact that there's a Life Day Chewbacca figure blows my mind and is literally something I never thought we would see. So keep it going. I just got to keep going. If they make Pong Krell, I hope they let Bosk's Bounty announce him. Yeah. Tim loves Pong Krell.
Yeah.
Some guy did submit Punkrell twice through like very slightly different email addresses, and we're on to you, pal. So watch it, and we will be removing one of them. But yeah. So, and I've said before, Lumpy could theoretically use. I know it's about all new tooling, but could use an Ewok body if you think about it. A little furry, little short dude. So I'd love to see it.
And I'm crazy for having Nubs on my list. Gotcha.
Nubs isn't on my list because he's already in my collection multiple times over. So Lumpy is not.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair.
So, so the next three, two of them are new.
Just want me to pull them up at the same time.
Yeah. So we got Rika, Tick, and Crosshair Imperial version. So much like Lewis, 2 years ago, I had Hunter and Crosshair on the list to kind of represent the whole batch. I didn't want half my list to be Bad Batch, just the Bad Batch. But at this point, it's like there's no hope on the horizon, and their answers in the live streams are getting less and less optimistic about finishing this crew. So I just want to show that the support is still there. I love the show, and I want at least one other member of the Bad Batch pipeline by the time the show ends would be nice. If Dare to Dream, because season 3 is coming this year.
Real quick, just speaking on the Bad Batch topic and Lumpy.
Yep. Yes, and Gunji is another one that people bring it up, and I'm like, I should have put him on my list because I love him and he's a Clone Wars character and Bad Batch character and stuff. But he could, I think so, yeah.
I think I've seen him on some lists as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is out there, isn't he?
So you need more Wookiees, tall, short, all kinds of Wookiees. But yeah, I also want Echo and Omega, of course, but wanted to focus on the original members of the Bad Batch first. And an Imperial Crosshair could lead to a regular Crosshair back and forth. Yeah. So number 2 was also my number 2 last year. You got a hashtag Luthen up. But yeah, love Luthen. Love everything about him. His ship was awesome. His monologue was awesome. Great performance, great character. Need him in the line. The fact that he's in
Which
Black
version?
Series all of them.
See, no one can answer that because we don't have a single version. You can't really answer it's not easy to answer the question.
I'd be happy with any of them, but I also agree that I want if I had my choice, I would pick his Ferrix green outfit.
Although, think about all the cool little deep cut accessories they could pack in that are in the background if they did the Antiquities dealer version.
That'd be a fun Comic-Con or PulseCon exclusive version or something when they always...
That would. I would.
The outfit is quite different, but...
I did really like not the price, but I mean I did like the Chrysanthemum with like all the accessories in there.
And similar to the Thrawn Black Series one from a few years ago. But yes, so number 1, you know who it is. Mr. Sweet himself, Sweet Simalu. Not the most exciting, but there's an original trilogy character for you, so go nuts. Daniel Chart, love you. But,
also, someone was giving you grief for not having aliens on your list. I see quite a few.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, Kana Dis has got to give me some street cred for the alien crowd, please.
and Dryden and Ventress are technically aliens.
That's true. That's
so.
true. That's true. They just got weird stuff on their face from post-production, at least Dryden. But anyway, Simalu, I know he's not exciting. He's not the most exciting. He's not even... some may say he's the least exciting, actually.
I would say that.
Some, including most. But, he's, again, representative of the Finish the 96 thing. It's something that I've been not my highest priority, but I guess it is if it's on here. But he has never been replicated in the modern line ever. It's the only figure from the vintage Kenner days that has never been replicated since then. So he's important to me for that angle. So another complete the crew, teams and themes, finish the 96. He hits all those points for me. We got so many awesome Return of the Jedi figures this year, including Jared and a Death Star 2 Vader to walk next to Simalu and Palpatine a few years ago, Royal Guards many times over. But put him in a multi-pack, put a Royal Guard in there with the original 83 card that they got in retro, but not in vintage. They also got in Black Series this year. Put it in a they should have done him after Jared in that thing so he doesn't peg worm at Walmart, but too late. Put some more Imperial droids in there,
So, forgive me because I fell asleep while you were talking about him, but you know, I feel like it could be like, if you already said this, stop me. The Tessic thing, like really just
No,
soft
but
because
yeah,
you could put any figure body under most of
Yeah.
that.
yeah.
So
I mean, it's crazy,
Good
really,
design.
that we've had the other imperial dignitaries, you know, well, a few other imperial dignitaries,
Yeah.
not all of them, but
Yeah.
yet they've never gone back and sort of done similar, even, you know, despite his history. And so
Yeah.
you would have thought it's a figure that at some point Hasbro would have had on a list. But yeah, it's crazy, really, that we still haven't seen him.
Yeah, and he has, despite your protests, Evan, he has made the bracket all 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
So
Mm.
I do wish they had got him out this year for the 40th, but you know, whatever.
all joking aside, I do genuinely mean it when I say I do want all of these. As much as I, you know, was talking crap
Yeah.
about Sim and Kane, like, are those my priorities personally? God, no. But if Hasbro was tomorrow, like, oh, we're gonna make these figures, be like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's do this. I'm in. I want them. So,
Yeah. So yes, even he's the only remake I think on the list. And again, a remake of a figure who's not been available in 40 years or 38 years. Daniel Chart loves it.
Yep.
I see that. If you had a removable hat, why not? Yeah, you know, that's an action feature right there for you. So
Although it would be a pretty big hat, methinks. So
so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do it. They could do, because those dignitaries, which were 20 years ago now, 21 years ago, they were fully plastic and they used the same body. They just had a different head and different arms, at least parts of the arms. But now, yeah, like Paul Healy says, they could do something like Dalte Dauphine and have some soft goods and some pliable plastic over. You know, we got some skinny dudes like I assume there could be a lot of parts shared with Bib Fortuna. I don't know.
Yeah, and then they want them to do the other ones just to make them look more up to date with the new one.
Yeah, the dude with the
Just
big
a
toe.
vicious circle.
yeah.
Yeah. Sim would look fine next to the guys from 20 years ago, but yeah, so that's my finish the 96 plug on that guy. So kind of all over the place, kind of nuts, but it shows.
Yeah.
I want the new stuff, I want the old stuff, I want everything in between. Yeah, so there you go. Everybody go edit your list and turn them into mine.
Yeah. I dig it. That's a good list, man.
Yeah, I love
Oh,
it.
thanks.
It's always,
They're all
I mean,
they're all good lists.
Your lists are always quite wacky. You know, you've always had things like
Yeah.
Merrick's Astromech. You know, we didn't even have a name for him, I don't think, at the time.
Yeah.
And you know, and everyone laughs at you, and then they go and get him made. And you kind of,
so who's laughing now?
Things out the bag, yeah. And that's the, so you know, who knows this year, or you know, rolling into next year, who knows what could come off your list.
I would put money on Lumpy being made before most of the ones on my top 25 that are main characters.
Yeah.
I hope not. I'm joking.
Ahmed Dam, I see, is upset. No Hammerhead mentioned. I'm sure Hammerhead will place on the bracket. He always places very highly.
A lot of these too, and I think we kind of mentioned it going in. You mentioned it, John, with Balin and Shin. So did I, and we talked about it with the OT stuff. A lot of these things, like the OT mains, Balin, Shin, the Hammerheads, the Tonikas, they're not on our personal lists. At least for me, I have total faith that my points given to them would not do much, that they're already going to have a lot of points. They will likely be on the bracket. They have been for the past several years. So it's just kind of like, I will spend my points on other things that may not have as much support.
I am curious though, after obviously we're following hot on the heels of Last Figure Standing, there was a lot of figures that did well in that, you know, in that top 10 that a lot of people were pleased, may not have gone on and won it, but pleased they got the exposure. And I have seen comments, particularly where a lot of these conversations have been going around these lists that people are putting on. I have seen people sort of saying, oh, you know, I've not put Balin and Shin on my list, or I've not put this figure on my list, or I've put it low down because I feel that it's already had good exposure from that tournament, and therefore I want to focus on something else. And it will be interesting to see if it has any sort of impact when we get through to those you know, that bracket, whether you know, you've got head-to-heads and all of a sudden someone like Balin, people are going to go, well, actually he's had his time, he's had his, you know, let's vote for this one instead. And it'll be interesting to see if it does change people's mindset at all.
Yeah. That's the nature of the March Madness beast, is that every year there's the things that you can set your watch by, but then there's also the things that are quite surprising. So
Yeah, the top 10, 20 are usually similar looking year after year. But then it's once we get into the deeper stuff, that's
into
when
the mix. Yeah.
you can
And
advocate
it,
more for your personal wants or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah, and top seeds don't always win. I mean, again, we've just seen that. We saw that ourselves when Dooku was a top seed. Luke was it Luke or Leia was top seed last year? But and again,
Leia was.
Yeah, Leia. So people do change their tact, and they change the routes, and they start to look at figures, particularly when you've got to start to choose between two, and people then start to go, oh, actually, hang on a minute, I think I might like to see this one more, even though, and I've done it myself. You sort of think, oh, actually, that was higher on my list, but actually, now I'm looking at this voting, I think I'm going to go with that one. And yeah, so again, it's just that psychology, isn't it, of how people pick.
Yeah. And like, yeah, obviously I want Cobb Vanth, I want the Tonicas, I want, I want everything. I want new versions of everything. I want never before made. I want all the characters that everybody else wants. But this is my time to advocate for wacky stuff that might not always get advocated for. So there you go.
Yeah. And this was our time for it. But did you know that you too at home can make a bracket, or not a bracket, a top 25 grid of your own choices? We have provided a Photoshop document as well as a transparent PNG for those less Photoshop inclined. That's in our bio over on SWTVC on Instagram. So have fun with it, man. Get wacky. Share your lists. We want to see all these lists. So.
Yes, and you can find this template in our link tree in our bio on Instagram /.com/@SWTVC, whatever it is. We're SWTVC on Instagram. However the thing, search for it. You know how to find it. But that's where you can find it, and you can find the link there as well. And please, for the love of God, it will be in the caption here very soon, as soon as we stop streaming.
Hopefully.
But were there any other questions we missed? I think we've gone over everything, now.
Yeah, I think. I haven't seen any specific questions jump out.
People going over their personal wants and stuff.
Yep, people reading you the riot act, John, for your horrible list.
And it's good to see people still on there saying that they're still writing their lists, they're still putting the list together. So there's still a lot of people giving this a lot of thought, which is good.
Yeah, and
we have,
and that's part of it. It's like it's fun to think about, and again, I was crippled by indecision making my list. It took me forever, and I'm still not totally locked into it yet. I think so.
Mine's the same year after year, and I'm still just like, man, now I feel like Kino should be higher, or I feel like, whatever else, Nubs needs to be on there. But we have almost 550 lists right now, so keep them coming. We want 1 million lists. That's the goal. We want 1 million lists this year. We're gonna get them. So keep going.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, Milky Way Skywalker is. I'll help you promote him. You want the Time Grappler? He was number 1 on your list. I think you're the only one with him on your list, but he is another fun, awesome.
I saw that and I thought, yeah, it's great fun. Great fun.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. Thanks, you, everybody.
Matt. Yes, thank you. Here you go.
Space Hut wins. Maybe the most sensible list.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it ever gets me anywhere, and that's I mean, you could go. I could put all the New Hope mains on there. I could put Tonicas. I could put Hammerhead. I could put all those on there because I would take all of those figures. But for me, I like to try and think a little bit outside of that. As I say, I set my own rules, figures I haven't had before, and I try and set those rules to make it easier to pick 25 because otherwise, I could pick 200 easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
Difficult. But so as you said, it's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of work for us too. But hopefully slightly less this year with some of the stuff. But now I still have to go through. I'm going through all the websites and everything to make sure that everybody has submitted their list at the link.
Yes. We must stress that if you have a list and you've shared it, but you have not submitted it at the link, please do. That is how it's going to be counted. So.
Yes, and thank you to everyone who already has and submitted. We love to see your list. So if you have submitted at the link that's official, then also please share on social media. Share the link. Tell everybody you know. Tell your other collector friends that aren't on social media. Tell your other collector friends that aren't on the forums or Facebook groups or whatever. Let everybody know. And yes, thank you to everyone who has shared already. Thank you to our sponsors and partners, if you want to call them that, I guess, our cohorts. everybody who has shared it and written about it and talked about it and told us our choices suck, but everybody who hasn't. So
they always suck.
Yeah. There's no right choice. Yeah.
We're used to it. I mean, the good thing this year is we talked about, you know, these things being visible or not. If you are the sort of person that worries about someone shooting your list down and ridiculing you for having Ben Solo on there, then at least you can do it in private. At least you can put it on there. You don't have to publicize it if you don't want to. So, you know, there is a plus there for doing it on the Google Forms as well. But we do want people to share them, you know.
Yeah. Have these conversations, guys. It's fun.
If you don't want to get yelled at for having Phantom Menace Holiday Special and Last Jedi figures on your list, then you do have that option. So
we're here to
take you have great choice, great taste, the correct taste.
Yeah.
But and does T no? Sorry, man. I'm not coming around to your house to read your list on your notepad. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens, I guess.
Just fall asleep to people just whispering their lists into your ear. Oh man,
we've officially hit feature length. So
we have.
I've said it all.
We could go for another hour and a half and Snyder cut this bad boy, but
put some slow-mo in.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, any last minute questions, last minute additions, thoughts, or should we just peace out of here?
I think we're good.
The silence answers
it.
So, all right, guys.
On your list. That's my last statement.
Thank you again to all those who submitted, all of our friends and the community, and all folks who have shared and participate in this effort. It is huge, and it would be nothing without everybody's cooperation, participation, and enthusiasm for it. It means a lot. It's fun to do. It's fun to see. And then, you know, come April 1st, we can all nap and it'll be great. So unfortunately, we have an extra year of it this year. It's our first leap year of
extra day of it.
Sorry, extra day. Yeah. Obviously, don't trust me with the nitty gritty. So
finally, yes, after 3 years of doing this, the government has granted us one more day to work on the budget. So I do appreciate that. So thank you.
Blessed. Use it wisely.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, you know what? I think that'll do it for this live stream celebrating the TVC March Madness top 25 submissions. Again, submit your lists, share them, talk about them. Ask us if you have any questions. You can find each of us at the @ that we have on our little things here, as well as at SWTVC on Instagram, or even drop comments here on YouTube. We'll yes.
Like the video on YouTube again. I don't know if that does anything, but it probably helps.
Subscribe to our channel as well if you get a chance. And yes, we repeat ourselves a ton. So if you go back and listen to previous years of March Madness stuff, we'll probably be saying a lot of the same stuff, really just to drive the point home. But yeah, so that's it. As always, friends, keep 375 alive, submit those lists, and may the Force be with you.